Well, might have a peculiar situation going on here, I'm quite sure.
What's going on? What's going on? What's happening? What have I missed?
Well, we couldn't find each other. Digitally, we were ships that were passing in the night in a digital sense.
Passing in the night, never to be seen again. Right.
11 o'clock on a Friday. Good morning.
Yeah. Do the lovely formal introduction like you always do in such a marvelously formal, magnificent way. Go ahead. Knock yourself.
Great honor to do such a thing for you. Welcome along to Friday's daily show here on Men's Radio Station. This is with me, Phil Dave, and with him, Russ Kane. That's very exciting. Russ Kane is currently... Do you know what that is? That's a fan blowing dust. I'm so sorry. Take over.
Ladies and gentlemen, I used to work with Phil Dave. No one expected him to suddenly cough and then expire on the floor. What can one say about such a young talent and such you're back. Okay.
Might I suggest we start the show as we mean?
I was doing the eulogy at Bushy. It was great. It was really good.
I do.
I think there would have been a dry eye in the house. I think that would have been it. They would have been. They would have been crying in the aisles there. Now you have big excitement, don't you?
Do I? Big excitement.
What's the matter? Yeah. Yesterday you were full of vim and vigor. And today,
yesterday I was getting lots of nice comments. Now
what? Now what's the matter? Somebody been rude?
Oh, no. I'm don't get me wrong. People have been nothing short of marvelous and very, very flattering. But I don't know. I'm not sure.
What's the matter?
I don't know.
No, it looks bloody marvelous. What's the matter with you? It looks great when you lend people your. Oh God! When you lend laptop,
might I suggest that where Russ is broadcasting from today might give you a clue as to what he's talking about, because I'm broadcasting.
Oh no! You've lost heart. You've lost. I've got to concentrate. I'm going to give up on this tech shit. You've lost heart. Yesterday, I was so proud of you. Right?
No,
and you posted a video.
I promise you, I'm not.
You posted a video that was fantastic. And we all loved the video, and everybody piled in. And now this morning, what?
No, it's not.
Share it. How you're feeling? Because it's a big deal what you did.
It is. Well, first,
mighty big deal. I paid for lunch. No, I'm kidding.
I think what I need to do first and foremost is to remove the hat.
No.
Am I building up?
You have no sense of drama. Build it
up.
I'm
used to doing radio.
No, we're radio's poo. Build it up into a sense of magnificent drama that everyone will be going, what the heck, what the hey?
Well, picture this. It was Hertfordshire 2019. And I first noticed that as I was relaxing in the bathtub, that a clump of my hair came out as I went to go and wash in perfectly standard fashion. Then regrettably, as the baths went on, the days went on subsequently, I might say, that regrettably I was noting more and more hair was sort of coming out with it. As a result of it, it was starting to resemble a bit of a patchwork quilt.
Patchwork quilt?
Yes.
Okay. I'm showing great interest in the story. You see the way that I just jump in there, give it a little underline, an italic here, a bold, Helvetica 12.
Oh, please don't say bold. What's wrong with you? Anyway, but I do think you need to... How can I put it? You need to teach me how this drama and build-up work.
Oh God! Well, listen,
I don't know whether or not I've got it.
Suddenly you're Luke Skywalker and I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi. Although I look the same at the moment, 300 years old. Right. So, anyway, are you going to tell everybody what you did because it was so huge?
I was trying to.
Okay.
But I don't know whether or not it's interesting or not. Look, I posted.
He laughed nervously, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, yeah. What the hell was that? Sorry, I do apologize. Yesterday was my birthday. Now, this is not because
I forgot to say happy birthday. Where are you taking us?
Thank you. This is absolutely not because I am asking for people to start pouring in with comments, which are very kind because most of you have already done so. So thank you for that.
So what are you? You're 43. What were you yesterday? 43.
Well, that to one side. The reason why I mentioned it was my birthday is because I thought, how was I going to mark it? Because it's obviously in a lockdown sort of situation. I can't really go out and socialize. Yes, I could, but I don't really want to because, to be honest, people I would normally...
You got no friends?
Well, it's not that. It's the people I would normally meet with on a birthday. There'd be more than 6 households, and it probably wouldn't be very sensible if we did go somewhere. Anyway,
ridiculous.
The upshot was that I had to mark it in another way. So I decided that I was going to take the plunge. I decided that yesterday was the day when the clippers came out and their hair came off. Yes. So if you are watching this on either Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter,
hang on, drum roll. Hang on.
We'll now see.
Ladies and gentlemen, is that good?
It's all gone.
Ta-da!
There you go. Yep. Isn't that lovely?
Sorry, who the hell are you?
You can now see the true extent.
This is Phil's younger brother, Peter. So this is Peter, Dave. Peter, welcome to the show.
I have noticed, though, how my headphones now seem to frame my head quite nicely.
So this is a huge, I've known you for years. This is a huge deal that you've done here, right? For you, it's a very, very, very big deal. Me, not so much. But no, it's a huge deal. And it was very brave. And the video you posted was fantastic. I was stunned. I watched it and I was like, look at that.
So the video the video I posted yesterday on my social media, which I have to say, I don't really use social media that much, but I figured it was arguably work related, because I've always said that it is, if I don't mind using social media in a work capacity, but on a personal level, I'd rather not do it anymore, because it's, well, just a bit overly political for my life. Anyway, I just had to post the video because I thought, well, technically that would be kind of a work situation because of what we do here at Men's Radio. It's about how we feel. And I hope I was honest. I hope I was candid enough to say that demons have plagued me for a very, very long time. And I have been umming and ahhing as to whether or not to do that or not. And I find
we talked about it.
We've talked about it.
You know, you lend a laptop, you get it back. It's never the same.
Hang on a sec. Sharon McGovern. Oh my God, you look like Judge Rinder.
Oh, actually, do you know what? There is a hint of the Judge Rinder. Somebody else says that you get on with it, guys. Shut up, Kennel.
Get on. Where does he say get on with it, guys?
What are you producing the show? You paying for anything? Making a contribution? Making a donation? Shut up.
Ken Helms says, thank you for that. Ken Helms says, much prefer your fedora, Phil. Puts a few years and a touch more class on you. Thank you. Well, I must admit,
I think it's brave and bold. And I also think it'll free you up from the tyranny. That's what I wrote to you.
Well, do you know what?
It's really tyranny of your hair, which has driven you mad for years.
But you know what? It's really interesting you say that. Instantly, as soon as it was done, I felt this wave come over me. This is going to sound so flimsy, but it's kind of true. I felt this wave come over me of relief because it was kind of done. So there was no more umming and ahhing, no more debating about it, no more wondering, is it the right thing to do? Is it the wrong? I mean, it's too late now, but is it the right or the wrong thing to do? So
I think it's good.
Really,
I think it's really great. I'm impressed. I'm very impressed.
It got me thinking that this really is something that I think, tussle with as a society, as in general, as a human, as a species.
Yep.
And I wonder, are we too attached to our hair? Because I can't count the number of friends who have said to me that it's one of their worst fears. And I thought it was just me.
What do your friends say? I haven't had a coffee yet. I haven't even had a coffee yet.
I can tell that they've said to me that it's one of their worst fears is the thought of losing their hair. So it got me thinking whether or not are we too attached to our hair, and do we have a problem in general with people who are balding? Because actually, if you think about it, I don't really know of that many people other than Matt Lucas. I thought you were going to cue there. Okay, fair enough.
Thank you, baked potato.
There we go. Right. So other than Matt Lucas, Harry Hill, and a couple of newsreaders on the BBC that no one actually knows what their names is, we don't really actually have that many people on television with no hair or lack of hair or hair thinning. It's very, very odd. It's almost like we are conditioned to expect people to have it, whether we like it or not.
Certainly in America, where the newsreaders all look, they're so glam, and the Sky newsreaders all look models because you're
Chrissy,
buying into that. You're buying
Chrissy's
into
late to the party. Phil, have you gone bald? Don't make me say it again, Chrissy.
It's interesting. You know what is interesting, though, in all seriousness, is that this is a very serious subject for you, right? You and I have discussed this for years, and I had no idea because I thought that was your hair. And then ages ago, you showed me what you were doing and how you were disguising everything, and I was like, bloody Nora, that's extra. I had no idea. It was very elaborate. Let's not kid ourselves. It was elaborate. And
and of course, sorry, I forgot. Sam Monroe, of course, is also on television with no hair. Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in films.
Yeah.
And outside my flat going, let
Curiously
me in.
enough, actually, as seen in Judge Rinder. So there you go.
Yes, he's in a lot of those shows. I think he was on Crime Watch. Anywho, the thing about it is, it's a very serious thing for you. And it's very unfair for people, in all seriousness, though we rip into each other, you and I would never make a cheap shot about that because I know it's very personal to you. So I think it's very unfair of anybody, even amongst our delightful worldwide global listenership, to just be rude about it, because it's taken Phil a lot of courage to do this. A lot of courage. And I'm sure he thought he was going to be in for a lot of stick.
Yeah, but I understand why people can make cheap shots at it. Look, I dare say that if the boot was on the other foot, I'd probably do exactly the same. But
would you?
Yeah, I probably would. I don't know, actually. I mean, I would, if I knew how much it affected somebody, then I probably wouldn't. But look, it's not as bad now as I thought it would be. I think my biggest worry, and it sounds really silly, but my biggest worry was how other people were going to react. Which is so stupid, considering that the number of times I've said I don't care what other people think, but for some reason
that's your whole thing. You say I don't care what other people think. I'm Phil Dave, and all of that. What do you think? In life, one of the great things is what is the worst case scenario? What's the worst case? And also, I mean, my dad used to have a thing. I was worried about something. He'd go, "What are they going to do? Take you in the street and shoot you?" And I went, "Of course not." And he went, "Well, there you go." So, you can always build from that. You know what I'm saying? You can build from that. So what's the worst case scenario? If somebody was so rude to you that you thought was a friend, you'd tell them to sod off and you wouldn't speak to them again. No, but you wouldn't. Why would you if you thought they were your pal?
I'm very, very distracted this morning. I think I should explain why.
Well, hang on. You're not like Samson, are you?
Because I don't know. It's really strange you say that. No, it's really strange you say that, because in some weird way, I for years thought that a lot of my confidence came from my hair. Because if my hair looked terrible,
that was misjudged.
No, but if I thought a lot of confidence came from my hair, then I couldn't really. I thought I couldn't function very well when it looked bad. Arguably, that was every day. But the point is when it looked really bad. But anyway.
Last Amanda says, Phil, you look gorgeous. And Shoshana Yosef says, Russ, how did you feel when your hair turned grey? Well, the day it turns grey, Shoshana, I'll let you know. As if. Oh.
In the meantime.
Well, you know what? I tell you, I mean, it's a minor thing to what Phil did, but I used to colour my hair with this whole thing because I didn't want to go. And then I thought, oh, sod this. I really just thought, sod it. What the hell? It's ridiculous. And the reason is because sometimes you see people and their hair is so jet black, it just looks ludicrous. It just looks awful. And so I thought, I can't be bothered. And I just,
I
just let it go. And then that was it. And it's who I am. What can I do?
I saw someone the other day like that, Russ. Seriously, I'm not joking. This guy had to be in his late 80s, just had to be. Everything else about him, seriously, must have been late 80s. Mm-hmm. And yet, his hair was just jet black. And I thought, heaven forbid that I ever get that obsessed. And I think actually that was probably one of the things that made me decide enough's enough, because I thought I can't possibly let myself become that obsessed with not rolling with age, because otherwise, what's the point? Everyone else has aged before me, so why not?
Andrea Lucas, thank you, baked potato. I'll never get tired of that, Andrea. Never. Look at Matt, who has lost his hair as a child, and now. Do you know, the first time I ever saw, I didn't know who Matt Lucas was. It was in the very, very, very early stages of his career. And he came on as a character called, was it Boothby Granby or some? Andrew, you'll have to help me here. Or if you're big Matt Lucas fans, which I am, but I can't remember the name of this character. And he was like that. And he was talking, and suddenly in the middle of his set, and I just thought I didn't know who Matt was, and it came on as this other character. And suddenly his hair started to move. And I thought, oh no, completely fooled me, of course. And that was part of the sketch, part of his stand-up, that his hair. Then we've got Kimmy Lashmar. I currently have pink and purple hair. I currently have pink and purple hair and tried all colors, and it's a question of self-confidence. But you are and look great, Phil.
Thank you.
Your mum's come rushing, and I thought she might. Linda Dave, never heard of it. They say that if you have a high forehead, you are very clever. Phil, you must be brilliant.
Ouch. Anyway, thank you, Martha. Anyway.
Martin Allen, shit, Phil, massive respect, and it suits you, mate. Why do you have to start the sentence with shit, Phil?
It's a bit harsh. And on one hand, you say
I was a bit late. That was always a bit late. I get just to the door of where I broadcast from, just to the door, and Ebony decides it's poo time. So, wait, I have to turn around. Then I go all the way back up the street to find the bin. And I was like, do you have no sense of timing?
Russ.
Yeah, what?
I feel as if that I'm not going to potentially do this discussion justice on my own.
Right.
I think I need to enlist the help, if I may, of someone else who potentially might be known for being follically challenged. And I wonder whether or not you'd permit me to welcome them in from the digital green room now.
I'd be flattered and delighted.
Excellent. So in that case, let's just make sure that we know.
Yul Brynner back from the dead. That would be a trick. That would be a show. That would be a hell of a show. Bring back your favorite dead celebrity.
So we're now welcoming into the stream the mystery guest. There we go. Right, the mystery guest has joined us on screen.
Oh dear God!
Now,
it's not your mum, is it?
No, it's absolutely not. Mystery guest. I wonder whether or not. Oh, there he is. It's Zen Monro, everybody. Hi, Zen.
Good morning, and welcome to the
kind of you to join.
Do you tell me something? You know, when you went on Tinder, did you wear the mask as part of your profile? Was that it? Is that why you haven't had
They wanted me to wear it, yeah, but you know.
Now, first and foremost, thank you for joining us. Wasn't expecting to see you, but always lovely. Zen Monro, if you don't know who he is, great writer, great director, former CID police officer, murder detective.
Enough of that.
No, but it's true, because otherwise people think you're just a philanderer like me. You actually you're a proper grown-up with a proper grown-up, dangerous, proper big job.
Then, you know, this is rather worrying for you. I'm not entirely sure how, but Martin Allen says he knew it was you. I'm a bit worried for you.
So take the mask off now, mate. We've seen it. The joke's over. There we go. I'd have got away with that for you darn kids. Right, and off you go. Go on, Phil. Get all your marvelousness. Go on.
Well, might I say that my favorite comment from yesterday, when people were very flatteringly complimenting me on my new hairdo, or head don't, as the case may be.
Hey.
They were saying, one of my favorite comments came from someone who said, welcome to the land of shiny tops. And I can sort of see where they're coming from, if I'm honest.
Shiny tops. That's like polyester, isn't it?
Yeah. What can I say? It's amazing, actually, how the surface does reflect quite a lot of light now. But anyway, such is life. It was a nice thought, though.
I don't know if you can see this. I actually banged my head the other day. This is what you're going to get if you bang your head. Yeah, not good. You'll find that you'll not be able to hide it.
I've told you, when you're doing your peeping Tom, be careful of those windowsills, Sen.
Well, I'm only 5'7". Yeah, I had to reach up.
No, I know, but you know when the person turns around and you duck, bang, Every time. He never
But
learns.
anyway, look, the reason why I wanted to call in and say, obviously, talk about the lack of hair is that I yesterday when I phoned you to wish you happy birthday, and also to say to you that you were very brave for doing it, and I said to you, bravery is very relative. I get what you're saying, but I started losing my hair when I was at school, and I mentioned to you that there's me in my school uniform getting on a bus, losing my hair, and the bus conductor saying to me, "Why are you wearing a school uniform? You must be at least 20." I was 15, for God's sake.
Jeez.
I'm telling you.
I did take particular pleasure in telling Sen that if only he had the same kind of humor that he does now back then, where he could have just said, "I like dressing up in uniform."
Yeah.
Oh.
Do my homework for me. Here's a bag of sweeties. Yeah. But
obviously we don't condone.
we don't condone, yeah. Other sweets are available. But I was going to say to you that it is for a guy, especially at that age, 15, 16, 18, to lose one's hair, quite traumatic. So I get that it can be quite difficult. But if I had known back then what I know now, it actually really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter one bit. Given the choice, would I love a full head of hair? Of course I would. But you get dealt some certain cards, and you've got to make the most of whatever it is that life deals with. There are far worse things to be worried about than that. And can I just say, for me personally, now that I'm much older, not so sure about wiser, but it really doesn't bother me one bit.
No, and you know what? Even now, I know this sounds ridiculous, but 24 hours after the big chop, even now I do find myself slightly more at ease with it, because I realized that an awful lot of it was the apprehension around actually cutting the hair. But I don't know what I thought the worst thing that was going to happen was. And it's like you were saying, Russ, and as your father would have said, what's the worst that could happen?
No, the worst, and the thing, so Sen, I think, first of all, thanks a lot for joining us. It's important. I know people might think, oh, what is this all about? But this is a huge deal for Phil. You know, this is something Phil and I have talked about for years, not just months, years. And for him to do that is a massive step. So you find it, you find it liberating, Sen? I mean, it doesn't bother you at all, because I meet you and I just see Sen Monroe, right? That's the point. I don't think anything else. That's what I see. And I think because Phil's hair was such a big part of his charisma, you know, it might take a little bit of adjusting, but do you think he'll find it liberating?
I think he will. And can I just say, originally my hair was like Phil's is now, and then I decided, because I can grow it back and it will be like Phil's, but right. I choose to shave it and keep it as short as I do because I think it suits me.
It does. It does. I'll be honest. I know we mess around,
and I don't want to look like Jean-Luc Picard. So.
Might suggest that Ken Elm's got the right attitude, positive mental attitude. This is what I like. Ken Elm says, on a plus point, Sen and Phil, you'll never go grey like Russ or Ken Elm.
I do go grey. That's the point. But it doesn't suit me. You know, as I said, I've grown accustomed to it, and to be quite frank, if I were to grow hair, I think people would be more shocked that I've grown it and it doesn't look as good as it does like this. And it saves me a whole load of money on hair products too.
No, that's also a thing. And Phil would spend at least, I'm not telling tales out of schools, I think he's talked about it publicly. Phil would spend at least an hour a day trying to get the hair, you know, before
not recently, but certainly back in the day, I used to spend a long time doing the hair. Long time. And it was, in hindsight, it was silly, really. But look, it wasn't silly. I was just doing
silly.
Yeah, but
hey, you know who's joined us? I've got to say hello. The great Wayne Hector. Wayne, one of the greatest songwriters we've produced in the last 50 years. Wayne Hector. If you look up his discography, you will go, oh my God, he wrote that. That's what you do. Wayne Hector, welcome along, Wayne. Dave Henrik, and we are joined by broadcasting royalty, Paul Fear.
Oh my God!
I know,
Paul Fear. What a long time no see. How are you?
Fear. Sen, you know you used to be a detective.
Okay.
All right. I want to give you a private case. Think of yourself as Philip Marlowe. Find out why Paul Fear is invited to the opening of everything. Everything.
Yeah. Do you know what?
Yeah, that's your job, Sen. £100 a day plus expenses.
No, seriously, Paul, what are you doing with your evenings now? Because I only ever used to see image after image of you going to a different production, which, by the way, I envied that lifestyle because I loved theatre. All I could do was watch the photos as I was going to bed.
Who's on your balcony, Russ? I can see someone in the window.
Nobody at all. Nothing at all. Nothing
Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see.
Well, I was going to say, look, the reason why I wanted to phone in and have a chat just very briefly was to say, look, you know, as I said, welcome to the club. Glad that you're here. You will find it liberating.
Now you see me?
No, you don't. Thank you. And also, just a bit of, Russ, come on. And just to say, I'm not sure if you've seen our press release this morning.
Nope.
Yes, come on, Sen. You've got a big announcement. I want to hear this, please.
Well,
Very exciting.
Happy to announce that my little film company, and by the way, you'll recognize these boys because they arrived today.
Hey.
Oh, yay. Da-da-da-da.
Hold on.
Oh, the cufflinks.
What?
How come there's 3 cufflinks?
No,
it's-
we don't want to type in.
Oh, okay.
Get with the program, Ross, honestly.
Oh, I couldn't see
It
it.
should be-
That's really good. Gripping yarn filter.
These have got your names on it, boys. Well, not gripping yarn, but you know what I mean. But yes, happy to say that I signed a contract a few weeks ago with the wonderful Tony Klinger to produce our film, Sweet Dreams.
Get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah, and
You know what? I have to tell you, Sen, if we were in front of an audience, they'd be doing this right now.
You couldn't be in safer hands. He's not only one of the nicest guys in the world because we've got some projects on the go as well.
I know that, yeah.
And some TV stuff. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
So we start, hopefully, COVID willing, start filming next summer with a global theatrical release for Christmas of 2021. Hopefully.
What's it called?
Pardon me?
Trick question. What's the film called?
I didn't hear that. Sorry, it's called Sweet Dreams.
I'm made of this.
Sweet Dreams are made of
Who
this.
am I? If you like cheese, who am I to disagree?
Yeah.
Yay! Julian
right.
Dodds has joined us. Julian Dodds, set fire to your chest hair. Okay. And Louise Roby. Roby.
Oh, my.
Hmm.
On your
Roby.
holiday, Mrs. Boss.
Roby. No, not a name I recognise. No, don't know who it is. I've got to interrupt you, Sen, because before Lou Roby disappears, I was thinking of Lou Roby only the other day because I was watching Goliath, which we're going to come on to later in the show, right?
No, you've lost me.
And the character is cutting an avocado and puts the knife right through their hand, Lou, and has to walk around for several scenes with a bandage on their hand. So I thought, Lou Roby wrote those scenes anyway. So well done to you, Sen Monroe.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm very pleased.
As I've mentioned to you before, once we get this lockdown out of the way, there's some single malts and a cigar that we must have.
I'm telling you, it's poison. I know that it's not quite the same.
You're not going to start drinking now. You can't. It's not even 11:30.
I'm not drinking now. I'm showing you the bottle, man. Even I'm not that desperate. Hang on.
Hang on.
There you go. It's quite hard to open this.
Is that your dad's single malt, by the way?
Ah.
What have we got?
It's the one you got me, RK.
That's the one I got you. Port Charlotte.
Oh, Charlotte, very nice.
It's basically so peaty. I think you should go into a peat bog, dig it up, shove it into a bottle, and that's it.
Yes, it is definitely peak for us, and I do like that.
Good.
But anyway, look, as I said, I live for the day that we do get past this COVID stuff and we actually do meet up and celebrate together. I'm looking forward to that.
Me too. How are you dealing with it? Now I've got you on the hook, so to speak. How are you dealing with this on a day-to-day basis? And
it's actually been quite easy because since March, I've just locked myself away and I've been writing. I've completed 2 features, and that's kept me very, very busy. You can't see, but in the corner of the room, I've also bought a bicycle, so I'm out on that. Trying to do it as best I can. And it's been horrible, especially on a day like this when it's really, really hot.
Yeah.
You sit at you know what it's like, Ross. You sit at the computer. You got to do 5,000, 10,000 words or whatever it is, and you try your best to do it. But that's what's kept me, dare I say, sane. Talking about mental health and all that. It's kept me sane, Monroe. There you go. It's kept me focused.
Very good.
And also, and I mean this really, to all the friends that I've made on, especially on this wonderful show of yours, because I've made a lot. Spoken to Simon Buckman, Francois Pascal, you guys, everybody. So I've got a lot to thank you guys for. Because
did you know Tony before? I can't remember how you two hooked up.
Through reputation only. I must admit, because I know what he's done. I know the body of work his father had done, and yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
Michael Klinger, the greatest.
Yeah, and it's only through that. And again, I've got to thank you guys for a lot of that, because it's through that I've managed to get as far as I've got. And what's really humbling is the fact that somebody thinks that something born of my imagination is good enough to make it. And that's,
why should you feel? But why? Why would you feel that? Because you've got faith in it. You've got faith
I've got faith in abundance, but sometimes you need a helping hand. It's not all about what you can do. It's about somebody believing in what you can do. Someone having that leap of faith and taking the having the courage to support you. Because that's
you know what, Sen? As I've said many times to other people, it's not a charity. Tony Klinger, as well as being a very close friend of mine, is a hugely talented bloke.
Yeah.
And even if you thought you were the greatest chap in the world, it's not this is just a point for life. It's not a charity. If he didn't think this was a work of merit, that he wanted to do it because he's busy as ever, right? He wouldn't do it. So I understand it's this sort of it kind of comes back, and I know you didn't plan to talk on this, but you're here now. It's this imposter syndrome. It's this imposter syndrome, isn't it? You expect somebody to tap you on the shoulder and go, Sen, you got away with it, mate, but not, it's kind of that. And really you should be thinking, well, Tony Klinger is a man of great reputation. He likes my work. It's pretty damn good. You should be patting yourself on the back there.
And also, Andy Lucas is giving you a plus side as well, where she says that if all else fails, you don't forget you are also a yeast deliverer. So.
Yes. Yeah, but in her hour of need, I delivered her yeast.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Anyone who doesn't know that.
The thing about life is, and you've touched on something really interesting, and I'd like to open it up to everybody else all over the world, is this. That some people go through life and they won't help anybody because it's all mine. I got to keep it all mine. And I just think it's bullshit, right? And I think if somebody's nice and they're a decent person, then it behooves you. It's a good thing. It's a good karma to help them out and put A with B and see if it works out and step away. The trick is never to expect anything from it. If you do it expecting some financial reward or unless it's a business thing, you've made that clear at the front end, that's a totally different matter. But if you do it out of friendship and because that's who you are, I think that's a great thing. It's when people do people big favors expecting something and then they get dumped or they're ignored or they're cut out or the history of the project is rewritten. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. I mean, this industry is rife for backstabbing and I'm not going to go into the finer minutiae of it, but yes, this can be a very harsh industry. But I write for the love of writing. I'd like to think that, I love comedy. Yes, we know we did stages. We spoke about that, and that was a labor of love, really, to do with Parkinson's. But my first love has always been comedy, and I like writing about things that hopefully make people laugh. And Sweet Dreams, for me, I love the fact that I've written it, and sometimes I wonder when I read it back, gosh, did that really come from me? But
isn't that a weird thing? You see it. That's pretty good. I did that. Wow.
Yeah, it is.
It's feeling. Unless you're a writer, you won't understand. It's a very odd feeling.
But the other thing is, Russ, as well. Coming from an immigrant Turkish Cypriot family, I know I keep pointing out.
I didn't know that.
My 2.9% Ashkenazi Jewish that I am as well. I'm very proud.
I'm going to get out of this deal. 2.9%.
But seriously, my parents came to England in '52 with nothing. And for me, to have this idea that, I don't want to go into my father's, first of all, grocery business, then the kebab shop business, and having an idea, reading stuff. And it's the truth, mate. I tell you, it's very true. I don't like to serve kebabs on Friday, mate. But
Stereotypical.
well, it's true. My father, he speak like that, mate, all the time. I told you about the gherkins in the Falklands. You know that story.
No.
The Gherkins in the Falklands.
No, you
Hang on.
never told me that.
This sounds like a sequel.
The goat story is fantastic.
All right.
That's too cruel. Don't do the goat
1980
story.
something, whatever it was, the Falklands War was on. I came home with my friend Jeff. We're sitting down watching TV, and the news was on. And my dad rushes. He goes, Jeffrey, have you seen the Falklands War? He goes, them bloody gherkins, they're very hard. Gherkins, Dad. The gherkins, they kill everybody. It's gherkins, Dad. Gherkins, not gherkins. So,
Oh dear. Mind you, I have to tell you, I'd love to be able to speak Turkish by the sound of the way your dad spoke English. So, you know, I don't
he was
I'm
great.
Love that, the
But
gherkin.
what I'm trying to make, you know, whilst my mum was upstairs making dresses for 35 pence a dress, and my dad was at the grocery shop, I was reading books and learning words that other kids didn't use, like, I don't know, anathema, recalcitrant, pusillanimous, things that I've never, you know, malapropisms. I mean, all of these things. And I'm using those in my writing. My English teacher, bless both of them, bless them, Mrs. Murray and Mr. Jobson, said to me, son, you've got a cadence about, I didn't even know what cadence was back then. You've got a cadence about the way you write. You use grammar really well. You should think about doing this for, as a living or an occupation. And creating, as I said to you, Ross, you know this, creating stuff born of your imagination is a wonderful thing. And if other people get delight from it, then that's even better.
It is a great thing. I have to write every single day, and I got a message out of the blue from a cousin of mine at 11:15 last night. I said, "How are you?" I said, "I'm still at my desk. It is 11:15. That's all I've done all day, apart from walking the dog. I have not budged." It's just nuts. It is
You
nuts.
think it's a form of eccentricity, writing all the time?
Who you asking?
Eccentricity? No, it's
Either of
a
you.
form of love.
No, because I think it's a bit eccentric, you know, to be sat at a desk for that length of time. It might be rich coming from me because I'm sort of normally at a desk 4 a.m. till 6 p.m. But even so, I don't know.
I'll tell you what it is, Phil. It's same with music. I like writing songs. Suddenly you'll hear something, or something will resonate with, and you've got to get the thing down. And you may write it down. You write a scene, and you'll get the bare bones of something. But then when you look at it a day or two later, you think, actually, I can improve on that. And you'll redo it, and you'll redo it, and you'll redo it. And then suddenly it becomes not far removed from what you thought originally, but something better.
You polish it, you finesse it. You can always improve. You can always improve. I'm like that. I suddenly something comes into my head and I have to get it. I have to write it down and everything like that. Back to Phil's hair.
Just before we do, might I just say, Paul Rose has commented, by the way, saying, can anyone join in this discussion? Paul, I have messaged you. You're most welcome to join the discussion.
Yeah, you can phone. Oh, yeah. Explain. By the way, because of Phil being a genius, hair or no hair, what is this? Sharon McGovern, two things.
Yes, I don't get this either.
You're like, nothing more shocking than going into Waterson's and seeing your name on rows of books. It's quite surreal. Well done, Sharon. Yeah, fantastic. Sharon McGovern.
No, I didn't know what thing that meant.
All I'm going to say. My aged auntie was telling me her friend had her ankle amputated. I said, you mean her foot, auntie? She said, no, you silly girl. It was her ankle.
Was that as opposed to her aunt?
I'm completely lost. Sharon, you've lost me.
I don't get it. I'm talking about.
Totally lost me. I have no idea. Martin Allen. Martin Allen.
What I think we need to do, gentlemen.
What?
I think now that I am a newly found member of the Slaphead Brigade, I think it's time to welcome to the screen. Oh, yes. We have someone else joining us. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, from the digital green room as he makes his way onto screen. Oh, it's Paul Rose. Hello, Paul.
Hey!
Morning.
If you two put your heads together, you make a complete arse of yourselves.
What?
Oh, for God's sake, it's an old Lionel Jeffries.
Oh, I see.
It's an old Lionel Jeffries gag. Lionel Jeffries did that gag on a talk show in the, God knows, 60s or 70s, and everyone went, oh, the audience loved it, and the host, probably Eamon Andrews or somebody, was like in such shock because it was so risque at the time.
Well, you did see that thing where they had these guys sitting around a breakfast table. We all looked like some eggs.
Oh, dear.
My son keeps doing that. He keeps putting an egg next to my face and going, spot the difference.
Can I just say something, Phil? You put me down as North London. Actually, I am also in Hertfordshire. So
You're in Hertfordshire now, are you? Sorry, I thought you were in North London.
That needs to be. Are you in Hertfordshire, Mr. Paul Rose, as well?
I'm in Boreham Wood.
It's everybody's in Hertfordshire except me.
it must be the water around here. Having
Not one of you has said, Russ, can we go to Costco and stock up for you? Not one.
You are totally and utterly out Hertfordshired.
I am.
And may I just suggest as well that I'm wondering whether or not there actually could be a little name for the club based on how there's no hair. We could be the Hertfordshired.
Oh,
Just thinking.
That's very good.
You see?
Where hirsute hardly happens.
Paul Andrews, I don't know, right, said Fred came on Friday and pretty soon the Daily Show becomes a tribute act.
It's a pair of you.
Hair today, gone tomorrow.
Script, 2 seconds for this script. Right.
Oh, look at this. Francois Pascal says, love Sen, best guy you could ever meet. Well, there you go, Sen.
You are so in there. You are in there, boy.
Oh, hang on a second. He's doing his French bit here.
Bientôt j'espère.
Scrape on.
Means I hope you're well.
Bientôt j'espère. Until next time, I hope. Yes.
Dimple Pasqua, DM me if you. No, we're not doing that.
No, none of that.
Thank you. No, thank you. Ian Foreman used to be in Hertfordshire, and he said, I escaped. Was that the tunnel? People walking around.
Why would you want to escape? Hertfordshire is stunning.
Is it?
Well, I mean, if you overlook the fact that Hertfordshire includes Watford, the rest of it's great.
No, you lost me at Watford. Thank you. Let's hear it for Hertfordshire, says Ken Elm Janur. Now, Paul, when you we're talking about hair and everything like that. When was your hair when did it become an issue, shall we say? I'm being polite.
Early 20s. It was thinning on top quite a bit. There's a combination of things for me, actually, because as well as just male pattern baldness, I also got a weird skin condition, and the medication I take really, really thins the hair a lot. And by the time I was 24, I just remember saying to the hairdresser, what do you reckon? And he went, it's time. So, yeah, grabbed the clippers and it was gone. That was it. Never.
And you know what's really interesting? No, but you know what's really interesting, though, Paul, is that I know it sounds really silly, but in the past 24 hours, I've looked back at some photos of hair as it was. And looking back, I can actually see the signs of when it was thinning. But I either I was in denial or it was so minor that I didn't really notice it.
What did you do with the hair that you cut off, Phil, by the way?
You know the chair, the chair that needed to be stuffed and reupholstered?
I had to ask the question, what has he done with
you
his
sold
hair?
the whole thing to DFS, and it's going to fill up several of their sofas for the next 6 months, you know?
So I missed the beginning of the show. I sort of turned around. I thought, what on earth happened here? I didn't know what happened.
It's a thing. No, it's not actually Phil. Phil's still around. That's his brother Peter.
I'm very, very pleased that you asked me that, because I decided that maybe when I reach to a certain height that I'm aiming for, and I don't mean sort of in terms of growing any taller, I recognize that ship's long sailed.
That's gone.
No, I thought that maybe that my lock could end up in the Smithsonian. So there you go.
Oh, put it on as a moustache. Wait, let's see what you look like as a moustache. That would be great.
Or a bow tie, actually, it could be.
Now that's nice. It's a lovely bow tie, or a nice moustache.
Is that what it smelled like? Jesus, no wonder I got rid of it. Ugh. Anyway.
Yeah, it's going to improve your love life.
It does smell very nicely conditioned. I've got to be honest. There you go.
Well, you can take it out and wash it now at your heart's content.
That's the point. You could take it out, wash it, take it for walks, keep it in the corner, reminisce. Talk to it.
The other thing I was thinking as well is that when I've old and snuffed it and I'm lying in bushy, I thought maybe on the headstone I have a photo done, and then I could get some spray glue and they put a photo and they put the hair on the photo, spray it on, and then people could actually see the hair and touch it. I thought that might be another alternative.
Or you could give it to me as a plaything for Ziggy when I get him at the end of the month.
Maybe.
Oh, no.
Maybe could you imagine actually on the tombstone it could read "Hair lies Phil Dave."
Hair.
Oh, very good.
Thank you.
Paul,
what the hell have I got myself into? I could have just carried on listening. Anyway.
This is great.
Yeah.
You're happy.
And
Is
it's
that-
only 450 degrees in my studio, so you know,
You've got a proper studio. haven't
You haven't got it turned on. Here's a clue. Turn it on. It will cool it down.
yes, it will, but it'll also make a lot of noise. So,
Think about it. I don't care. Look.
well, let's find out.
You professionals, it's
If too
amazing.
loud- If it's
Look
too
at
loud,
that.
you tell me. I'll
Paul's
turn
got
it
a
off.
racing chair.
I've
Look,
got
Sen,
one
Sen,
fan
Paul's
here.
got a racing chair. Look at that. He's got a proper, like a Recaro racing chair that he sits in. Look at that.
Have you?
It's only
Oh,
got
look at
loud,
that.
it's
Gracious. Hang on, Paul. Get out of the way a sec. Let's see the chair. Look at that.
Nice.
It's a
We love
gaming
that.
chair. It's actually a gaming chair. I got one for my son a couple of weeks ago, and then I found myself suffering from chair envy. So yeah,
Chair
it's a
end.
thing.
Is there-
It's an
Is
actual
there
thing.
no end to the neurosis that we
Not hair envy.
I was just going to say, Sen, you beat me to it. That's what I've got at the moment.
Sorry.
There you go. You can have one of
Sorry.
those.
This is the thing. There's nothing shielding the sun from getting through and fueling the creativity. That's what it is.
But you know what? Actually, this is really strange. Literally, up until yesterday, I wasn't that worried. Oh, Sen, really? How could you wear a woolly in this? Come on. Right. Even actually,
A
no.
man who wears loads of clothes and waistcoats and God knows what, and it's 40 degrees.
cravat,
Yeah, but
waistcoat,
I look good.
t-shirt, thick shirt.
Oh, what we've got Cookie Monster going on. Love it. Right.
What's the matter with you two today?
Please tell me how it is.
Paul,
You know what? Cookie Monster
I'm
was a
not
really
gonna
bad
regret.
influence when children were growing up, you know. Think about it. All it was ever encouraging was diabetes. Cookie Monster would eat virtually a packet of cookies every single time, not put on an ounce of weight and never have to inject himself with insulin. And I blame Cookie Monster for the diabetes problem.
Yeah, but he never had it.
Loving this, it looks like the start of the Brady Bunch. It's either that or Celebrity Squares. Hang on. I used to live, Françoise Pascal, your new heartthrob, Sen. I used to live in Little Gaddesden. I hope I pronounced Gaddesden. Oh, Gaddesden. Near where? Hame? Oh, Hemel. Sorry. God. The sun is shining.
Shall I tell you what, let me put it on screen. There you go.
Lived it there for 14 years. Best years of my life. My son grew up there too.
Oh,
I thought Russ was going to say L'Chaim.
I thought I was going to say.
hey.
Glassy Amanda was in Hertfordshire on Wednesday. It's stunning. Couldn't live there, but it's beautiful. I couldn't live there either. I'm
Thanks, Darcy,
Around
man.
my neck of the woods then.
Hmm?
So she wasn't around my neck of the
That's
woods.
so rude. I don't know who your ex-wife is. I'm sure she's delightful. I think she's very, very, very. I'm sure she's extreme. Sharon, I'm still not getting the joke about your aunt, the auntie. Maybe I'm just being thick as everything now. Now, Paul, you do lots of broadcasting, don't you?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get up there with it. Yeah, I've got a show that I put out which goes around the world on syndication, and yeah, I love it. And I mean, this week I've actually been doing a bit of it's not really telly, they call it telly, but it's like a Facebook Live as part of a networking group that I've joined, and they like to have like a daily roundup of what's going on in the news, and they asked me to do it, and it's been brilliant. Lots of
Can
fun.
I suggest, Russ, could you imagine anyone being bonkers enough to do a daily thing on Facebook? Who the heck in their right mind?
Crazy.
Who-
I
right.
recommend it.
Someone's at my door.
Who would see you, Sen? Thanks.
Oh, bye, Sen. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Nice door.
Yeah.
He's going to come back with something which he will think is hilarious, and I'm going to keep
I've got one.
like that. I'm gonna keep-
I have to tell you, I can see waiting in the digital green room is our first guest.
Proper get proper. What have you got there now? What's
Oh, he's got a parcel. I hope you cleaned it before you touched it. You don't know where
you
it's
just touched it. Oh,
Oh.
so madam, go and wash your hands now.
All right.
contaminated.
just be the-
People,
it can't just be
traveling.
Yeah, it can't just be us. It can't just
Oh,
be.
very good. Look at
Thank you, Sen.
Angela,
Yeah,
well
thank
done. Oh, Purell.
you. Purell.
Someone's
You're
been
so Purell. I find your humour fairly Purell.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
What you mean? It's clean.
It is pretty-
I was going to say to you, Russ, you'll be very happy to know that I now have my full delivery of Gripping Yarns cufflinks. They're all here.
Oh, is that what that is?
Is that what?
Are you suggesting, Russ, that you, by finding Sen's humour very Purell, that you think that his humour is better with alcohol?
Isn't everybody's?
All right. I know. Here's a question on my screen, and this is for both. This is for Paul and Sen. It's for Bernadette Fogarty. Hi, Bernadette. Hi, guys. Just a little question. As a group of men, you're all quite comfortable talking about men's hair loss. But can I ask, please, why it's so often a no-go area with so many men? I always assumed bald-headed men is totally normal. Oh, totally normal. Do I have to rewrite the whole internet? Never give it a second thought as a female. Well, there you go. That's from Bernard. That's from.
And that's exactly the
Bernadette.
point. Because that's not how guys think. Guys are very worried about how other people are going to perceive it.
Yes.
Right. And yet other people are very, they don't really care. And
This was Phil's big thing, Sen, wasn't it? This was Phil's big thing. He was worried how are other, and it's like, it's your life, Phil. It's who cares what other people think. It's your life.
And that's the reason why I wanted to really just call in and just say to you that, yes, it bothered me greatly and for quite some time. And much like Paul, when I went to the barber and asked me if I wanted something for the weekend and I wanted a wig instead of something else, I would go there. But the point is,
went haircuts in 1937.
Yeah.
But it's true.
And of course, Sen, you've started something now with your hand sanitizer because Lloyd Beanie's come on. I bet people who manufacture hand sanitizer are rubbing their hands together.
Oh, very good.
Hey.
Come on.
I bet they've cleaned up. Now, just before, hang on a sec. Can I just say as well, we've got a little bit of approval going on here because Andy Lucas says that bald is sexy and shows virility.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not going to disagree with the idea that bald is sexy. Naturally, it is, but I've got to think the person that came up with the idea of saying it shows virility was a bald man.
Yeah, but that's not very good when you're 15. You get arrested.
I have to tell you, bearing in mind, I mean, just to give some people a little bit of a sneak peek, a background here, okay, is that I'm in the digital control room, as it were. So anything that comes up on screen is because I've pressed buttons and stuff like that. And I can see very clearly our digital green room. And now our next guest, or our first guest today, because we didn't actually realize that Paul and Sam were going to join us, which is very nice, by the way. You're most welcome.
Very nice of them.
But even so,
Very
our next guest is keynote speaker and presenter Dexter Moscow, who's looking, if I have to tell you, he's looking quite horrified at what he's got himself into. So, but Dexter, I tell you what, would you like to give the thumbs up? Do you want to join the party now, or should we give you? Yes, he's giving us.
Really?
Oh, why not? The more the merrier, ladies and gentlemen.
This is a proper grown-up guest. This is not you two arsing about.
He's joining us. There we go. Welcome, Dexter.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here with you and listening to this conversation about hair loss as one of the club.
Well, I just leave.
It's funny. Up until recently, up until Wednesday's show, Russ, you and I would have had to walk away.
we would have had to do that. Dexter, thank you so much for joining us. Really, really appreciate it. I like to ask guests how, and I just asked Sen, unofficial guest, your official guest, how have you been coping with all of this madness for the last several months?
Actually, I have never been busier because I don't know. Part of my career has been in QVC, the shopping channel. And teaching people how to sell. I presented there myself and teaching others how to sell. And we're in this, what I call this televisual age now, where the majority of conversations are happening over Zoom or other video conferencing facilities, and people are needing to present themselves more effectively in this medium. So that's what I'm helping people. So
do you train would-be presenters at QVC? As well,
I train guest presenters. I used to. It not anymore. But for 60, guest trainer. So it's people that had never presented in that medium previously, who were passionate about what they were selling, and so just help them construct sales that would help people or influence and persuade people to buy.
Now, Dexter, we need to explore this more a little later on. But whilst we still have the Slaphead Club going on here, it seems like seems like a terrible shame not to find out your perspective on this. And you please tell me if you wish that you don't want to talk about this, because I know this is not what you signed on for.
I signed up.
No, I know this is not what you signed up.
A fellow here, a senior proper grown-up.
You are most welcome to tell us otherwise, because I was saying before that my worry is that actually we don't see enough people on camera, on television, who have either a receding hairline or who are completely bald. And
Jason Statham.
Yeah, all right, okay. I know you can but I'm
Bruce Willis.
seem to be obsessed with ticking every other box but that, unless I'm imagining it.
Well, I understood some time ago that if you go bald to the back, or then you're sexy. If to the front, then you're a thinker. But if you go bald completely, you think you're sexy. I'm sorry. I had to do it.
Very good, Dick. That's very, very good. Hey, here's an interesting spin on this. This is good. This is from Simon Buckman. This is over on my screen. Male upturn baldness is really caused by high levels of testosterone. Ain't just spin. There you go.
Well, there you go.
So that whole thing about virility.
Far be it from me to dispute medical advice.
Yeah,
So,
nor any of us at this moment.
Once again, that wasn't very helpful at 15, but thanks for that.
Dexter, I have a guilty secret to share with you.
Tell me, Ralph.
It's that a million years ago, I used to present on Ideal World.
Wow.
Yes, thank you. I know. What a bunch. Anyway, I'm not going to go in there because I'll give myself a coronary. But it was the most. It is a skill, isn't it? My God, it's the most extraordinary thing. If you watch QVC or any of those channels and you think I could do that, that's so easy.
oh, it's not.
The pressure you are under. You got people in your ear. You know, you have to get fitted for an earpiece. And correct me if I'm wrong, Dexter. So you've got the producers talking to you. You can hear everything that's going on in what they call the gallery, including blazing rows. You're 100% live. You're watching your sales figures completely live, so you know if you're doing well or not. And you got 4 cameras. And it's just you and a product. The pressure is intense.
It is intense. And I think that, there's a misconception that people, the presenters talk and talk and talk and talk. They do, but majority of the sales are only about, 4 to 12 minutes long. And the reality is that people are tuning in and tuning out the whole time. So when we present, we have to think in terms of 4-minute slots and say the same thing, really, but in a different, every 4 minutes.
Maybe that's where we've been going wrong with this show, Russ. Oh dear, Dexter, I have to tell you, your internet connection is a little bit dodgy. Terribly sorry, but you're cracking a little bit.
I do apologize because actually I'm not at home at the present moment. I actually away on the south coast trying to get away from Zoom screen. So I apologize. It isn't the best.
How's that working for you?
Oh, brilliantly.
That's going really well. So
Ross's old internet connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Dexter, you're going to tell us a bit about
various colorways.
Oh, there you go.
It's item 752830. It's the beautiful, fabulous bottle.
Oh my God, they're all got them.
Purchase from QVC or Ideal World. Yes.
Next, serious question. Sam's going off the gag. He is exhausting. Serious question for you. Before lockdown, I'd never heard of Zoom.
Oh no, he has got one. Oh,
I just thought it was Fat Larry's band.
I feel so alone.
I'd never heard of Zoom. Suddenly, our whole blooming life seems to be governed by Zoom, etc. I get Zoom exhaustion. After a Zoom conference call, I'm absolutely knackered, to be honest. Is that a common thing, or is that just because it's me?
No, I think it is a real situation. I think because there are no disturbances around us, we're concentrating so hard on the image before us, trying to pick up body language or seeing people's expression and listening very carefully to what they're saying. So I agree with you. It is exhausting. And certainly what I recommend is that people leave at least an hour between Zoom meetings. Otherwise, you are going to be fatigued. I quite agree with you.
I'm very glad you said that, Dexter, because I did think it was just me. And sometimes you've got a day because we're running 2 radio stations, plus we've got other stuff going on as well. But just on the radio stations, the number of Zoom calls we have to because behind the scenes, it's not quite as casual as Phil and I make out, obviously, with any organization. And if you've got them back to back, it's like by the end of it, I'm like, wow, I feel absolutely drained because I think we've never as humans never been exposed. You know, you have a meeting. If you're sitting around a conference table, you can look down, or you can do something. With a Zoom, it's unmitigatingly, you know, you're in the spotlight the whole time. You can't look away. You can't fidget. There's a load of things that you have to really bring into play. It is exhausting. Glacier Amanda is agreeing. Zoom is exhausting. You're not alone there. Phew.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, there's a slight misconception as well here that, you know, where do you look when you're on a Zoom call? And of course, the normal reaction is to look at everybody else who's talking.
Yeah.
But in fact, if you're making a point, especially if you're selling in this environment, then you have to look down the throat of the camera. And that is exhausting as well, because it's counterintuitive. Normally, we want to see what everybody else is looking like.
Yeah.
And can I suggest what a consummate professional you are, sir, because I have noticed your eye contact and the way that you are so completely and utterly trained and poised to look down the lens at all times. So what can I say? A true pro shines through. Now, might I suggest that you're actually here for quite a serious subject, and not for a second implying that Sen or Paul don't know how to be serious, but I think that we need to give undue attention. So why not, on the subject of hair loss, I think we've exhausted it. Sen and Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure.
We look forward to come back and chat soon, both of you guys.
Weekend, and don't stay in and wash your hair, Phil. Go out and enjoy yourself.
Well, I don't think it would take too long. Even if, actually, do you know what? The shower yesterday was so quick; it was amazing. But anyway,
alcohol was clean.
Thank you very much. There you go, Sen and Paul. Bye bye. Good gracious, there we go. But as I say, Dexter, actually, you are here seriously to talk quite a strong subject, actually, because you have a new book out, if I'm not mistaken,
yes.
And the title, I think. I didn't really hear anything. The book itself is, well, I think the title alone would tell you everything you need to know. It's called A Voyage Without My Father. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, this is focusing on the loss of your father.
Yes, it's a situation, and it's a book that I've wanted to write most of my life. I lost my dad when I was 10. He was just 45. It was
10?
a time,
oh,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And it was a time when, you know, kids weren't allowed into hospital wards to be with their relatives. And so I never got the opportunity of saying goodbye to my dad. And horrifically, this is the situation with COVID, that so many people have lost relatives, friends, family through this virus and have not been there. We've burdened our nurses and our doctors with that responsibility to hold our relatives' hands and for them to say goodbye. And I believe that this is
cruel. It's so cruel, isn't it?
Oh, it's vicious.
Can you explain a bit how that has impacted on your life? Because what was a moment in the past, it's obviously a very sad moment, and please don't think I'm trivializing the loss of your father, but if you see what I mean, a split moment in the past decision to say, no, as a child, you are not allowed, I would have thought that decision has impacted on the rest of your life.
Absolutely. I think, you know, that there are, as we know, there are very many stages. There's 7 stages of grief. The first is shock. The second is denial. And the third is guilt. I didn't feel guilt, but I felt regret. And that stayed with me. And as a child, I don't think I could process that loss, but certainly I'm sorry, I lost you for a moment there. I've got this lousy connection here. What I was saying, it was only in my 40s when I really felt the impact. And when I was 45, which was the age at which my father died.
Oops.
Oh, this is such a good interview too.
It's such a shame.
I'm so sorry.
No, you know what it is? You know why it's extra frustrating? Because you're a fantastic guest.
Yeah.
Really, really hanging on every word. There's so much I want to
tell you what, Dexter, I've got an idea. Oh, he's gone. Oh dear. Right, well there you go. Easy coming.
Dexter will come back. I was with my dad when he died, right by his bedside, and thank God I had closure with that. But I've talked about it. I've been very honest. I dream about my father. I dreamt about him last night. Nearly every night, I dream about my dad.
Wow.
What the hell that's about? I don't know what it's about because we weren't that close, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm an only child. Gives you some idea, a little peek into my real world. And I loved him very much, but I dream about him most nights, and it's never good. It's that interesting. It's never good at all. And it wasn't until many years of work that I remembered the memory that I'd suppressed, that I watched my dad drop of a heart attack when I was about 6. We were in the kitchen in Southgate, which is a place in North London. I was a little boy, lived in Southgate, happiest days of my life. And I remember I used the term vices. I buried this memory, Phil. My father dropping of a heart attack. He was young, right in front of me. Dexter, you're back.
I'm back. I tried to change the network connection.
There's nothing to apologise for.
Nothing to.
You're in the no-tell motel, and frankly, the internet's not great.
I think the last thing we heard you saying was that you were saying that as a child, and then it sort of dropped. So we don't quite know what you were going to say next.
Well, I would actually. It's interesting what Russ was saying, and I just caught that he lived in Southgate. Certainly, so did I.
Really?
Yes.
Where were you? I know. You see, you don't get this on other shows. Dexter, you don't get this other shows. You don't get this like, where were you in Southgate? Where were you?
Oh.
Where were you in Southgate? Oh, it's
That was a shame.
just off Chase side.
You know what I think we're going to try and do? I think we're going to we're going to try and get Dexter on the phone, because otherwise we're going to be constantly interrupted by this, which should be a shame. We don't.
Alan Kerr, you do all your tech genius stuff.
I'm on it.
Alan Kerr, John Bowlby, have I got that right? Was a British psychiatrist who did a lot of work on attachment and the lack of it. It can really leave a huge legacy. It can. Whoa, yeah. Glassy Amanda can so relate to not being able to say goodbye to her father. Oh my God. My brother and I were not allowed to go and see him for the last 3 months due to his wife. Oh, Christ. Oh dear, boy, I bet there's a tale. I also dream about my dad, and it's always in secret in the dream, mirroring certain realities. And we're all messed up. That's the great thing about life. We're all messed up, and it's fine.
Dexter is such a consummate professional that his phone is on silent or turned off, so he couldn't hear me just now ringing him. So it's absolutely fine.
Do you want me to do that? Do you want me to go on to the...
What I was going to suggest we do, Dexter, is I think we'll get you on the phone as well. So we'll try and keep you on screen as best as we can. We'll mute your microphone on here. We'll get you on the phone, so at least we'll be able to hear you, even if your picture drops off, if that's okay.
Okay, let me go and grab my phone then. Okay.
Thank you. So we'll do that. We'll take you off the screen for the moment, and Dexter goes to do that.
Dylan Kerr's come back. I was pretty lucky. No close deaths, but my father lost his mother aged 8. Well, of course, the twins lost their mother aged 5. And I always wait for the next shoe to drop, to be honest with you. I'll be honest. It's you don't just walk away from that. Losing your mum at 5 is yeah. Simon Buckman, very good point about Zoom calls. Simon, I think you're absolutely right. Just wish this is so true. This is so true. Just wish people wouldn't have their webcams shooting up in Zoom meeting. Nasal vision, not a great look. You're right. But we're not trained. This is all new territory for us. Nobody knows what they're doing. We've never done Zoom before. Right. Philip, are we back in the game? Are we back in the Triple Eight game?
Okay, there we go. So we should be able to hear Dexter now quite clearly on the phone. We do apologize about that. Technology and gremlins, they will continue to haunt us. But they always say it's not about how you fall down, it's how you get back up again.
Absolutely. And thank you for allowing me to continue. I don't want to...
silly if we're enjoying this. This is important stuff. Now, what I wanted to talk to you about, I know it wasn't, is you were saying there are 7 stages of grief. And we got to what was it? Denial?
Yes, you have a shock, denial, and then you have guilt, and then anger, and then so mine wasn't guilt, mine was certainly regret, and I know this is going to be shared by so many people, and actually it's something that's going to come back and bite them on the bum, because after they've processed this loss and they've gone through that situation, they're going to get angry, because that's what happened to me. When I was 45, which was, as I said before, the date and day that my dad died, I found myself getting really angry at the silliest things. And so I sat down with my wife and I said, Fran, what am I going to do about this? This is not right. I'm getting angry with the boys. If they cry for whatever reason, I was a shouter. I never hit, but I was a shouter. And I said, this is not acceptable. So I sought out psychotherapy and went into psychotherapy for about 18 months and came out of that with the realization that I was angry with my dad for dying. But what the do you do with that?
Nothing. You can't park it. You can't park it. I'm so with you. I'm so with you on this, Dexter. Yeah. You can't do anything about it because they can't come back. You can't discuss it with them. You're screwed.
You know what? I found a way through, and this is what this book and my feeling about my dad, A Voyage Without My Father. I found, I was going to say I found therapy, but actually I think they found me. And I encapsulated into an acronym, MIC, MIC. And I found meditation.
Yeah.
Which allowed me,
Wow.
Not transcendental. I found very pragmatic meditation through a method called the Silver Method. And then the second element of this MIC, this acronym, was imagination. And through going to this alpha level, I imagined that I was standing by my father's bedside. And the C of this formula is communication. And I found something called Gestalt therapy. And Gestalt therapy is where you take a position, you sit in a chair, if you like, and then you have this conversation with the person in the other chair. And so I imagine at a meditative level, I was standing at my father's bedside. And I said to him, Dad, how dare you die? You were overweight, you smoked, you were a chain smoker. How could you leave us? And I cried, and I imagined he cried, and we hugged and we sobbed. And then when I came out of that meditative level, a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Wow. And that's my message. Find ways that you can continue that conversation.
But you know, I think, Dexter, the way that what you instantly have that's different from so many others is that you recognize that you had a demon to put to bed. And that's what I think is really interesting, is as soon as you said to your good lady, look, this is not right, I need to do something about it. That's a massive leap. There are so many people who don't even recognize that they have a need for that. And I just wondered what it was that you noticed in yourself. You said anger, but were there any other telling signs that you noticed that made you think that this was something to do with it? Or did you not actually realize what the connection was?
I think that certainly anger was the predominant feeling, and the feeling of regret that I couldn't shift were the primary feelings. And I think that, it was reactions, unreasonable reactions. And I was always a very questioning person of myself. And I think that was it. Why? I needed to go on this journey of self-discovery. I realized that at certain times in my life, and still today, when I got married, my father wasn't there. I went through a period of what they called, when I was 13, of a confirmation. And my dad wasn't there at my side. When I had children, now lovely, the boys are married and I have grandchildren. All of those life events took me right the way back to that feeling of regret that my dad was not there with me. And so it's all of that culmination of just understanding the touch points where you need that extra bit of help.
It's every time you have a life event and somebody special isn't there, I find that life event, as wonderful as it can be, and as joyful and life-affirming and spectacular, it's always tinged with sadness. It's always, it's inevitable, and I think that's human nature. That it is our human nature to think, but so and so isn't seeing that, or they're not there to witness this, or and that is something you have to come to terms. I don't mean you. One has to come to terms with. And the other thing, Dexter, this anger thing is huge. But if you can't park it and you can't process it and you can't deal with it. And if you make the terrible mistake of turning that anger into yourself, that anger goes into depression. It festers into depression. And that is why you've got to be I hate the word process because it sounds so American, but you have to somehow vent that anger out, because it is very destructive. Now, I tried, and this is my question to you, I guess, only because you're resonating so much with me. It's extraordinary. And we've never met before. It is that Public Image Limited, which was Johnny Lydon and everybody, anger is an energy. And I use that as my sort of leitmotif for life, to turn that huge fury into lots of energy, which still fuels me now. And that's how I kind of, that's what I use it as a fuel, and that's okay. Doesn't depress me. But if you can't, you've got a real problem on your hands, haven't you?
Yes. And I accept and acknowledge all that you say, because it can be a force for good. Anger can be a force for good because it moves us forward. And I know we're talking about the loss of my dad, and we're talking about the loss of other people in this tragic time. But, abandonment also plays a part in this. If a boy or a girl is abandoned by the mother or the father, that can set up the same emotional problems. And anger is the key, so that if we work from a position of anger and move through those energy levels so that it becomes a constructive force which moves us forward, I agree with you entirely. But we have to recognize it. We have to recognize when it is destructive, to move away from that, and when it is constructive. Because the loss of somebody can be actually a motivating force as well. So that we actually do think, what would they say? What would they want me to do? And then that's a much more positive way of thinking.
Talk about positive way of thinking. I'm sorry, I'm just blown away by the comments I'm about to read out here. So forgive me. It's a bit large to put on the screen, so I'll just read it if that's okay. This is from one of our regular listeners, and also has been a contributor on and a really inspirational sort of chap, Paul Claridge, who has, my goodness me, known some tough times. So I had no idea this was on the list as well. He says that my dad was killed in a road accident 18 years ago. He was hit, he was a pedestrian and hit by a van as he worked. I never got to say goodbye, but one thing that helped me was, in fact, meeting the young man who was driving the van that hit him and telling the young man that we did not blame him in any way.
Wow.
That is mind-blowing.
Paul Claridge, and I'm sorry to encroach on your time, Dexter, but Paul Claridge is an amazing man. I bang on about him, but I've known him for years. He loves radio. That's not the why, but he got cancer there's no good way of getting it, but he got it very badly. And he's come through it the other side. He looks amazing. His attitude is incredible. We know he's unstoppable. Paul, you know what I'm talking about here. So, and to have that on top of everything else, you think, geez. I got a question for you, Dexter. One of the things that I was told, and I've always believed, is the quickest, oh, goodness me, what have I done? There we go. The quickest way to really, really cause yourself deep emotional and mental problems is to say the phrase you should never say, why me?
Oh,
why me? And when I was coping with a lot of stuff, the one thing I never did, and we never did, was say, why me? Because really my point is, that's not the question. The question is, why not you? Because life is just a random lottery. It's a random lottery. You don't know. There's Paul Claridge's dad. He goes out, he's killed by a van. Completely random, right? Why me? There is no rationale. But if you look for the logic and you look for that, you will go nuts.
Yeah. It's a very interesting concept. There's a mantra, and I have a few mantras, but one of them is, we have no control over anything other than our attitude to that given situation. And so, this gentleman who you're talking about, that is amazing. And it really should be a life lesson for us all. Look at the lives of others. I also find, and I don't know if this is helpful or not, that the lyrics of a song or lyrics of different songs can be amazing. I know when in the book I talk about Mike and the Mechanics, and I don't know if you've heard it, In the Living Years.
Oh, don't! I can't hear that song because it just sets me off.
Me too. That second verse, which is, I wasn't there that morning when my father passed away.
I'll tell you something which I probably shouldn't share, but I will. I was I worked with Chris Tarrant for 20 years. We're still good friends. And he was very, very close to his dad, Basil, who was a great guy. He was a terrific guy.
Fabulous name.
And Tarrant, absolutely
fabulous name, Basil Tarrant. Brilliant.
He was a lovely, lovely man. I met him many, many times. He was a terrific guy, and Chris adored him. They had a wonderful father-son relationship. And Chris was hugely affected when his father died. So I'm at one of Chris's barbecues in the last summer, and he had a band playing, and they played that song,
Living Years.
Yes. And Chris went to pieces. He had to walk away. He had to walk away for about 20 minutes. He was, and I thought, so I totally agree with you that lyrics and music can move you at such a visceral level. It's so true.
Yeah. And therefore, let me mention another one, because, this can cause pain, and that's not what I'm about. It's not what the book is about. It's taking people from that pain to a resolution. There's another lyric. In fact, I'm waiting to get permission to use it in the book. And it was written by Stephen Schwartz for a film, an animated film called The Prince of Egypt. And in that film, there is a song which talks about From Heaven's Eyes. And it talks about not looking at us and why us. That phrase you used before, why me? That's not helpful. So we have to look at things through heaven's eyes. What is that grand plan? Because certainly the loss of my dad at that age, when he wanted to go into advertising, prompted me to go into advertising. Prompted me also because he was a bit of a showman. He was a trumpet player. So he loved being on the stage. That's why I got involved with QVC. So sometimes it can be a prompt to excel. I'm not saying that I've excelled, but it's a prompt to do something, to either to be hostage to our parents' hopes and fears, which is another line from The Living Years, but look at those songs which reinforce a positive attitude, and listen to the stories, as Phil has just read out, of this incredible man who's gone through terrible traumas, both emotionally and physically, and still comes out the other side. I think that's an amazing story. Amazing.
He's an amazing bloke, Paul Claridge, and I'm very proud that he was one of our early guests on when we kicked off Men's Radio in January 2019. Here we go. Talking about songs, this is resonating with our listeners, Dexter. Glassy Amanda says, Luther Vandross, Dance with My Father. Oh, my God. Falling. Andrea Lucas.
I have to tell you, right, I know this may sound very rich for me, because thank God my father is literally just sitting but a couple of meters from me.
Bolt of Hertfordshire, your father, the way he moves around.
It's very difficult for me to be able to relate to that particular element of the conversation. But what I don't understand about Dance with My Father is why Luther Vandross would sing. It was a brilliant song and I really liked it, but I don't understand the lyrics and I can't relate to that, because to me, was he talking about dancing with him? What, slow dance? What does he mean? He can't.
Literal here. I think you're
No,
being a bit literal.
that's what I mean. I don't get it. So, and I'd love it if you can say what those lyrics mean to you, because I like the song, but I'm not so sure I can understand what he was getting at.
It's an interesting point. I think, song lyrics do resonate in different ways with different people. When I hear that song, does it resonate with me? No, because I never had the opportunity to dance with my dad. But what the vision that I have, and Russ, I'm sure you have a view of it as well, is that it's, you see fathers pick up their daughters in their arms and then dance with them. And I thought that perhaps that's what, as a young child, he was picked up in his father's arms and danced around the room like that.
Sure.
That's my take on it.
Yeah. You know, listen to this, Dexter. You're really resonating with our listeners. So thanks for coming on. I guessed you would within about the first 10 seconds of seeing you on screen. This is from Gavin Davis. Phil, you can't see this because it's on my screen. I lost my dad in 2008, my mother in 2011. I found out I had prostate cancer in 2012, suffered from chronic anxiety all of my life, but I'm always positive and generally happy. I work with Paul Carrick's guitarist, still do. Oh, Gavin, wow. You've come through. Whew. And then you've got this, Dexter. You see, you've got this, Kimmy Lashmar, who I've known for, what's going on here? Come on.
Oh, my.
Living Years was in the charts. Wow. When my brother committed suicide. Kimmy, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I found myself talking over it so my mum didn't hear the lyrics.
Wow.
If Phil and I don't end up crying on this show, it's going to be an absolute miracle.
Oh, right. Now, don't worry. Dexter, we have lost your picture, but just to reassure people, we can still hear you, just in case they wonder where you've gone. So
great. Thank you.
Do you know what? It's listening. It's so true. I mean, honestly, I feel almost a bit of a fraud doing this program because I don't think that I've gone through anywhere near the same level of upset and aggravate. I mean, obviously, I've had my own things, but it's just amazing the inspirational people we have listening and talking to us. It's just what people have been through is unreal. Ugh.
And they're here. And the thing that we all know, they're on the other side. They've somehow found the strength, even when they thought they couldn't, to carry on, to lead lives, and to be optimistic and hopeful for the future. And if there's ever a message from Men's Radio Station, that's it. So
that's the true lesson.
Yeah. And Phil, although you've not. Sorry.
No, keep going. I do apologize, Dex. That was my fault. I forgot to press the button. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Do apologize.
What
man's a fool.
I to say to you, Phil, is that you understand these stories. You understand the courage of these people, and that's really important because when you come to somebody who you know that has lost or is in pain, then by relating these wonderful stories at the right time, when people are really deep in it, they won't listen. Because you've got this wealth of understanding and these wealth of stories, that you can help. And again, that's why I wrote the book, to tell the story. It's in narrative form because I want people to say, I've been there, I understand what that person went through, and I can also use that and take that forward.
Was it quite traumatic writing the book and digging up the past, as it were? Or do you find that you lived the past anyway and therefore it sort of didn't affect you in the same way?
I think there were certain chapters of the book where I just wept, and the pages of the book were stained with my tears. Strangely enough, and I know this may sound very, very weird, writing about my dad, writing about my mum, who I lost, and also my brother just a couple of years ago, that was extremely painful. But you know what really broke me up? Is when I had to talk about having to put my beloved Labrador dog.
Oh,
don't go there. Oh my God. Oh. I have to tell you, seriously,
you
3 days of being inconsolable and just non-stop crying when I had to take the cat to the vet. Seriously, it's the worst. I know what. And people just say, anyone who says, "Oh, it's just a cat, get another one," I could hit them. You
should have hit them, quite honestly.
Don't get it at all. Not just a member of the family. I think in some weird way, pets are true soulmates because they're the ones who get you on another level.
Well, my main is just here where she always is. She's never more than about 6 feet away from me, ever. She won't. So she's just lying down there. And, she's 11 now. And sometimes, Dexter, I'm so with you on this, when I think, well, she's 11. She's not going to live forever. I have no idea, despite everything that I've gone through in my bizarre life. I don't know how I'm going to bounce back from that. I am dreading that more than anything. Isn't it ridiculous?
Yes.
But I get it. That's going to absolutely destroy me. I'll be in bed.
I questioned that. I said, why? Why would that affect me so badly? And I think, when we lose a relative, we are strong for other people. Because of a pet's unquestioning love and dependence. And I think it's a good thing. We just let go and let it happen. And all of the grief, we saw it when Princess Diana died. That outpouring of grief gave people permission to say, I'm also sad. I'm sad for my life. I'm sad for what happened to me. So let the emotions flow.
Let me ask you that. Oh, right. I didn't know you were going to go there, but okay, that's a really interesting point. There's kind of two views about when Princess Diana died, right? One is people were genuinely very upset, the people's princess and all of that marvelous stuff. And the other is it was just mass hysteria. For some reason, this country got gripped in some weird voodoo-like mass hysteria, and people were behaving. They didn't know her. I mean, the honest thing, all right, I met her a few times because of the work that I did, but people, you didn't know her. She wasn't your friend. She wasn't your relative. She was a total stranger, and yet people were completely hysterical over her death. It was a weird time. Weird.
I think it's the same question that one asks is, why do we watch things like EastEnders when it's so bloody miserable?
We don't.
Everybody's at each other's throats.
We don't.
I was going to say,
I won't have it on my screen. Miserable. God.
Well, I think it's the same kind of thing. I think that people I can't think of the right word, but they're living their lives to other people, which allows them to be happy, sad, or whatever.
I know what you mean. It's sort of like they relate to it totally. They see an element of their life through the stories that are played out on screen. And if they don't relate to it, even though it's fictional and we know it's fictional, they can somehow pacify themselves by saying, well, look, it could always be worse. I think there's almost an element of therapy about watching soap operas and relating it somehow to your life, because we all know they're exaggerated.
Yeah.
I mean, when it's not going to very likely in Emmerdale Farm when a plane comes crashing down. We know that's, thank goodness, not terribly likely, but it reminds us somehow that, look, this is what could happen tomorrow. Live for today. So even if it does that, it's done something right.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting point from Dylan Kerr, and I'm going to mispronounce this. Kintsugi, it's the best I can do, so get over it, is a Japanese art of making bowls from gold and broken pottery. It's a powerful analogy about how from being broken, we can sometimes become something better. Don't go with that, Dylan. I think what we can do is we learn to cope and we learn to deal with it. I don't think we come back as something better. I think we're pretty broken up and we reassemble ourselves. We come out of it different, but I'm not sure it's better.
Yeah.
It's just different.
No, I think, when people say to me, have you ever overcome the pain of that loss? And I will say, no, but I manage it. You live with it. And I think it's very interesting that 27 years on from Princess Diana's death, her boys have only just started talking about it.
Yeah.
The emotion and how they see that to hold those things too close to us without letting the emotion, I say this, it's another of my mantras. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It shows strength. And, the boys now, Prince William especially, is so much involved with men's mental health when he interviews footballers. And I think that's a good thing. I really do.
Do you think, it's interesting, say that mantra one more time, if you'd be so kind, Dexter. Vulnerability
vulnerability is not a weakness. It's a sign of strength.
The only problem with that, and I see exactly the point you're making, but the only problem with that is in the real world, not everybody's nice. And if some people see a chink in your armor, they will go for it because it makes them feel better, makes them feel bigger about themselves. In business, sometimes, whatever, they will exploit that to their own advantage. So it's not always the smartest move to show that you're vulnerable. What would you say to that?
I would say that, and I deal a lot with leaders because I'm a coach, I'm a business coach as well. And I find that if people are prepared to share the things that don't work for them as well as the things that do work for them, then you immediately gain the right people in your business. And, I won't mention names, but there are certain leaders of the world who see vulnerability absolutely as a weakness. But do we like them? I don't think we do. And so I think that if we are a true leader and we encourage the right people to join us in our ventures, then I would still stick by that mantra.
Have you got to the stage, Dexter? This is a big question because you're involved with QVC, which is a huge organization. I've been there myself many times.
Yeah. No longer, I must admit, no longer. But
they know what they're doing. They're highly successful. Do you think life becomes better for us when you can get to the position where you can choose not to work with people because you think, I just don't like that person?
Speaking of which, it's been a real pleasure working on Men's Radio Station.
I can't remember what you do, but thanks for being here. Do you think that's true? Is it just a luxury? What do you think?
I think that in this day and age where everybody is struggling I say everybody, lots of people are struggling. They're fearful about jobs. They're fearful of the companies that they work with. They're fearful that they need the business. I would still say only work with the people that you connect with. And I know this is a very strange thing to say in the business context, but we need to connect with people emotionally because that's how we work. We work through a filter of emotion to logic. And then, therefore, if somebody's going to cause this problem, if we offered a contract and we know that company, that individual is going to cause us problems, if it's going to be problematical at the beginning, my God, it's going to be problematical right the way through.
Never writes itself, does it, Dexter? It never gets better. If it starts to smell at the beginning, it's going to stink by the end. Listen to this one. This is a wonderful thing. Esther Windsor, this is on my screen. I lost my mother age 10. That is rough. I'm so sorry, Esther. My father and sister are very ill now. Your talk today is helping me now with love. Well, Esther, I'm glad that we can help. Dylan Kerr's got a good point, and I'm aiming this at you, Dexter. I think you need to find the right time and place to be vulnerable and the right people to be vulnerable to. What do you think?
I agree. It doesn't do to show our vulnerability right up front. But when we know that we are connected to that person, when that person thinks like we do, then that's a tremendous way to build a relationship that is valuable in the business sense and emotionally sustainable in the physical sense as well.
But that's quite challenging, being able to control one's emotions like that, because if you are that level of vulnerability, I don't think it's something that one can just turn on, turn off. If someone is in a position where they feel that they are willing to expose a vulnerability to the point where they're sort of not crying out, but you know what I mean, implying to someone else that they need them, that they could do with their input, then I would have, maybe this is me not giving enough credit to those who are in such a position, but I can't help but think that would be quite tricky just to be able to turn it off for the sake of saving face, but maybe not. I don't know.
I think one has to be authentic. I know one has to be authentic. And going back to the QVC days, certainly the most difficult people to train were actors because they took a role. But when you were brought into that, Russ is waving at me. But
believe me, I think Russ and I just both know what you're saying. I mean, me from work, when producing actors who suddenly think they're radio presenters, I can totally relate to that. But let's not dwell on that.
Yeah. So I think that, certainly there is a time to show your vulnerability. I'll give you an example. One of the clients that I'm working with was a command and tell leader of his business. And what he's realized in these terrible times is that empathy is where he has to be. and understanding that. And part of that empathy is to say, you know, I made a, I was going to use a rude word then, but I've made a mistake. And so it's sharing, that's what I'm talking about, vulnerability. Showing the error, showing the mistakes that we've made. Not just bearing your soul, that's going too far. But it is being empathetic and understanding what other people are going through. Because that's the essence of good communication. I mean, Russ, Phil, you do this all the time. You understand who your audience is. And you create programs that is going to help them. So for me, that's a major part of empathy and integrity as well.
Well, we try, you know, I've always said we wanted to create, when we set this up, we wanted to create a non-judgmental space. I don't like safe space. It's one of my least favorite phrases, but a non-judgmental space where people felt free. And even, you know, our brief interaction so far today, Dexter, you can see from the comments that people feel comfortable enough, they trust us enough that we're not going to ridicule them or make light of something, which is very, very important. You've hit on something.
I just say as well, never underestimate how much, to anyone who makes those comments, how much we appreciate them. Seriously, they are phenomenal.
I mean, you are the show. You are the show. There's an interesting point you've made loads. Every point you've made is interesting, but this one about apologizing. I've always worked on the basis, rightly or wrongly, I don't know, but it's just how I operate. When I screw up, I go, guys, my fault. I completely effed up. What can I say? I'm sorry, made a mistake. I don't try and find 1,000,001 excuses. I was this, I was that, you know, the dog ate my homework. Because if you do that, Dexter, do you believe then no one can go at you? You know, you've said it, you completely deflated the situation, haven't you?
Yes. You know, one of the trainings, one of the experiences I went through was to be trained as a Dale Carnegie trainer.
Oh, wow.
And you know, if Warren Buffett can say, you know, that was beneficial to him, who am I to say no? So I went
Might I suggest, I'm sorry to interrupt, might I suggest for those who don't know Dale Carnegie trainer, you might want to just remind people why that's important or why that's a big deal.
Right. Dale Carnegie, way back in the 30s, wrote a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And he also wrote another book, which many people don't know about, and it was How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And those two books certainly were part of my training. And one of them, in terms of making an error, is if you make a mistake, put your hands up. I can't remember the exact words, but it's part of the 30 human relationship principles. And it was, if you make a mistake, then make it clear immediately that you've made a mistake.
You know, it's really interesting that you say that, though, because I have to tell you that I can't count the number of times that I've stumbled across people, especially in media, and I don't know what it is, I don't understand it. When
ego, it's ego.
Yeah, I suppose it is. It must be ego.
Blinding.
When a mistake happens, the number of times they're so quick to say, it wasn't me, and I'm sure, Dexter, you must have stumbled across loads of people like this, as of you, Russ, but it wasn't me, it wasn't my fault, it wasn't me. When blatantly it was, there is nothing else or no one else it could be. But they look for the most trivial of things to blame. And I have also seen that blame totally passed on to the detriment of other colleagues. And I just think that is such bad teammanship. You know, that's not teammanship at all. That's just being a really awful individual, frankly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And furthermore, it doesn't do anything for that person's persona, that person's image. It just makes people dislike them.
Yeah.
Which is ironic, considering they're probably doing it out of fear of what other people think in the first place if they did own up to it. That's what's the irony. Yeah,
it's true. And it will come back and bite them on the bum. You know, and I'm going to use this word, but I didn't invent it, nor I'm saying it because it's my name. But there's a phrase called Dexify. And it's never defend, explain, or justify. Just say you're sorry and move on. You know, if somebody arrives at a meeting and says, I'm so sorry I'm late, it's because the train's I'm not interested. Nobody is interested in that. But if they say, I'm sorry I'm late, that's all that's necessary. And that's showing real courage. So to hide a real error.
I get the thing but it's because I think the reason you go into the long explanation of the train was held up by a railwayman and then there was leaves on the line and then it was the wrong type of snow and all that crap is because it just looks kind of rude. What you're trying to say on a subtextual level is, I'm sorry I'm late. I wasn't being disrespectful to you. It was extraneous forces of which I had no control. And I think that's why you do that, rather than try and make yourself look good. It's that you're trying not to show that you're ill-mannered, because that is an appalling way to start a meeting, especially if you don't know the people. It's like, it's just rude.
Maybe, but at the same time, I think it depends on the way you do that. If you were to go into a meeting room and just say, oh, I'm terribly sorry, the trains are all over the place, please excuse me. That's very different to coming into the meeting and saying something along the lines of, I'm sorry I was late, and it wasn't my fault. Trains, you know what the trains are like. The trains are awful at the best of times. I couldn't help it. When that's sort of a sign of someone not leaving enough time. Do you know what I mean? I think you can tell when someone's authentic.
You say to somebody, well, if it's an important meeting, geez, get here half an hour early, 45 minutes early. Go and have a coffee in Starbucks or, wherever you want to do. Then you'll be in time, you idiot. That's how you run your life. That's how you run your life if you care. If you care, if other people mean something to you.
Here's a wacky idea. You could even be early if you want to.
It's ridiculous. It's stupid.
And it's what you expect, isn't it, of your guests? Why would I come on air 2 minutes before showtime when really we should arrive 14 minutes to prevent any technological problems? Sorry.
You've not watched Men's Radio Station before, have you, Dexter?
No.
It's really interesting. Phil was telling me a story, and I won't say who it was, everything was playing. It wasn't on this radio station. It was on a huge radio station where timing has to be second perfect. And they arrived. They turned up. They weren't answering the phone for a radio, nothing. And they turned up 20 minutes late and then started blaming Phil. And Phil,
that was good fun.
Production team. I mean, it's like, what the hell's that about? Dexter, I've got a question from Paul Rose. Pretty sure Napoleon Hill is credited as the author. He'll know that. Napoleon Hill, does that mean anything to you? I've never heard of him.
Yes, Napoleon Hill. Now, I'm trying to remember exactly what the book was, but it's an amazing self-help book. And I think it was, it's not the 7 Habits, because I think that was somebody else. Has he stated what the book is called?
No, I don't know. He hasn't. But Paul, if you'd like to come back, that would be helpful.
Yeah, the Napoleon Hill is certainly one of the self-help gurus, business gurus.
Right. Okay. I didn't know that. And Paul Rose says, I'd rather be an hour early than a second late. Yeah, I know. I'm pretty much the same. There's an interesting point. We're talking about grief. And this is from Simon Buckman, going back to Princess Diana for a second. I think, and I'd like your view on it, Dexter. Diana became a metaphor for some as representative collective hope. Her sudden death was seen as the dream shattered. Many felt genuinely traumatized, despite having never met her. Same experience with JFK and John Lennon.
I don't know that I would particularly say that she gave hope. I think that why we perhaps connected with her is that and I'm saying this in inverted commas, is that she was the wronged woman. She had that interview where she said there were 3 people in that relationship.
A shocking interview. Awful.
Terrible. She should never have done it.
No, Martin Bashir should be. I'm sorry. I could never look at him the same after that interview. I thought that was disgraceful.
It was disgraceful. And I think it showed her as
deeply. Within a day or two, she hugely regretted giving that interview, but it was too late. Too late by then. Out.
I think it's more about her humanity. I think that that's what people connected with. When we saw her working with AIDS patients, we were prepared to touch them. When she walked those minefields,
yep.
That showed immense courage and personal integrity. And I think that that's perhaps what we tuned into rather than a new hope. I think it was just...
Actually, when she was in those minefields, she was way ahead of the game. She was wearing a visor even in those days. And this was way before COVID.
Phil Dave, ladies and gentlemen, who can turn even the most traumatic of situations into a comedy gem. I thought I was bad. The other thing about Diana, I think, was that because she was very complicated and far from an angel, I know because her head of media was a very dear friend of mine by pure chance. So, what you see is not always what you get. There was a lot more going on there, and because she was so deeply flawed, we all are, but because she was so deeply flawed, I think that resonated as well.
Yeah, I think the greatest impact, and I think that, again, we're coming back to this outpouring of emotion and release for us as well as everybody else. We're seeing those two boys walking behind the gun carriage. And I think that was emotionally connecting. Certainly it did with me, because it zapped me right the way back to that loss, my loss. And again, it's only now that they've just really started talking about that day and that feeling on that day.
Do you think because they were pretty young, do you think they remember it in great detail? I'm not being flip. I'm serious, because sometimes when things are that bad, it just gets kind of blocked out, doesn't it? Becomes a blur.
I've actually, again, and I apologize for mentioning it, but in the book, I've identified this. And it was very interesting, their comment about that day, because what they said was that they couldn't understand, walking as they did, why people were sobbing and throwing flowers. They could not comprehend it. I bet they do now.
They do now, but I mean, I guess it was their mummy, and it's their, and I use the word, correctly, their mother.
Yeah.
It's their mummy, and their mummy's in that coffin, and their little boys, and they got to put on this brave face in front of billions, not millions, billions of people. But I think possibly they were just focused on the fact there was mummy was gone, and that's Gus. I mean, it was Gus, obviously it resonates.
What does that mean? What does that mean, gone? I know that the day that my dad died, my uncle came to me and he said, "Dex, I have some very sad news for you. Your dad's gone." And my immediate reaction was, gone where? I could not comprehend. And we've talked about it today. The real impact of that is when I had my confirmation, when I was 13, when I got married, when I had children, when my sons got married and they had children. Those are the times when the deep regret that I still sometimes have difficulty in controlling, that is when it comes back. And I'm sure that
you feel a bit cheated, don't you? You feel a bit cheated, like, this would be perfect if, that would just round it off. It would just complete it. And you don't have that sense of completion. So it's never quite as lovely and emotionally satisfying as it could have been.
Yeah. So please fall back on what I suggested. Look at that acronym, that MIG. Understand meditation. Use your imagination. Even years after the event, to have that conversation and say, "Can you see my boys? Can you see how proud I am of them? Are you happy with what I've achieved?" Because for many years I had that voice on my shoulder, "Dex, you'll never do what your dad wants." And how could I have that conversation? He never ever said that to me. But then then when you can have that conversation, lay the ghost. I apologize for repeating this, but it was very impactful for me. My mother married again. In fact, was married longer to my stepfather than she was to my own dad. My stepfather was a wonderful man, but unfortunately he contracted pancreatic cancer.
Oh.
And the regret that I had that I could not be there at my father's side, I was there at my stepfather's side, right to the end. So what I could not do for my father, I could do for my stepfather. And it laid a ghost. I'm not for one moment suggesting that is what people should do. What I am suggesting is that if there is an opportunity to hold somebody's hand who are in pain or God forbid, in coming to the end of their lives, then that will release some of that regret that they weren't there at the time. I don't know if that helpful, or it just deepens people's sadness?
I actually think it's helpful. You know, I've been there twice, and it's a form of closure because it is very final. And I'm going to go there. I didn't think I would, but I will. It doesn't look like they're asleep. You know, in the movies, they just look like they're asleep, and they're not. And when somebody dies and they're lying there, I can't explain it. I don't know what the words are. I can't even process it, but they look very different. And that is when you know they've gone and they're somewhere else. If you believe they're somewhere else, fine. Or you just think they're gone, but they've gone. That's
okay. If we look at the expression that we get out of religion, okay, I know that you I don't know about you, Dexter, but I know full well Ross doesn't necessarily go down the religious route. But one of the expressions we get is that they are beyond any harm or pain or suffering.
correct.
And I wonder if that's something to do with the way that someone looks after they have gone. Maybe they do look at peace. That's the word that's used a lot.
I think that is right. I'm unfortunately, as I said, I've been there 3 times with my stepfather, with my brother, and with my wife's mother, who had reached the wonderful age of 102.
Wow.
And yeah, and when that moment comes, then it does change. I agree with Russ that something happens. People may say it's the soul, may say it's an essence of humanity, but the humanity goes. It's completely
gone, isn't it? It's just a shell. It sounds brutal, but it's like whoever they were, whatever their essence was, and I'm not getting all philosophical about it, it's gone. It's been switched off. It's no longer there. And what is there is a shell. And that, I think that's why it's kind of A, peaceful, and B, helpful, because that person exists either elsewhere or in a different form, or will exist in your heart or in your head, but they're not physically there. That's the main thing you get out of it. They're not there in a physical form, which sounds a bit airy-fairy, but it's true. Unless you've experienced it, you just don't know.
Yeah, I've had that happen twice in my life, where I had a feeling that my father, and actually my wife's father, was there. We have twin boys who are now somewhat older than the story I'm going to tell. But when they were very young, when they were in their cots, their individual cots, we heard them talking, and we went into their room, and they were standing at the end of their cot, pointing and saying the one word, "man." And we realized that our fathers were standing there.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I've said on the show several times recently, and I haven't said why, and I won't, that woman called Sharon McGovern changed my life about 6 weeks ago or so, and I totally relate to what you're saying, Dexter. Rosemary Jessup, I never got to say goodbye to either my mother 43 years ago or my father 29 years ago. Their spirits haven't gone, but their shell ill bodies have. I agree. I agree with that. And until about 6 weeks ago, I thought that was pants, and something happened to me which I can't discuss, but it was so revolutionary and such a revelation that my whole life changed. So due to one person. So yeah, I can totally. Oh, that's Andrea Lucas. John had a smile. When I'm at a funeral, that's exactly what I say to people. It's just a shell, not the person. It's so true. It's so they've gone.
Yeah,
they've gone.
They are not gone. Who will always live in our hearts and our minds.
Absolutely. Now, look, Dexter, unbelievably enough, we have hurtled towards the end of our time with you, which has, may I just say, been fantastic, sir. Thank you.
You've been one of my favorite. I got to be honest. God, I sound like false. I think you've been one of our favorite, one of my personal favorite guests. I found it fascinating.
Until the next one, can I? can I ask you just to remind everyone the name of the book and just remind people where they can find it, more information on the book and more information about you?
Right. It's called A Voyage Without My Father. It will be published mid-September. The reason is I need to get the authority to use the lyrics we spoke about in the book. There's also, I'm waiting for a celebrity endorsement. Somebody that 32 years after he lost his mum has only just started talking about it. And I would love him to either contribute to the book or just make a sleeve note, because the fact that it was 32 years after he lost his mum in very tragic circumstances. So it will be out in September. If anybody wants to make contact with me, can I give an email address?
Absolutely. That's totally up to you. Totally up to you.
Yeah. If somebody wants to communicate and understand how I got through it, then my email address is dexter@dextermoscow.co.uk. And if I can help, then I would love to.
There you go. So dexter@dextermoscow.co.uk, and that is now on screen for people to see as well if they want to. Brilliant.
You've resonated big time with our listeners. They absolutely loved you, as did we. And we don't always say that.
Believe me, we don't always say it. Dexter Moscow.
It's
your little break.
my honor and my pleasure.
And ours as well, sir. Please come back and see us soon. We'd love that.
See ya.
I'd love to.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
All the best.
Bye now.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye, Dexter
Bye.
Moscow.
Bye.
Oh, well, there we go. Wow. Oh,
What a great guy.
you ever known an hour and 10 to go by so quickly?
What a great guy. Interesting. You know what I loved about that the most, Phil? It was a conversation. We weren't getting
Exactly.
lectured at. We weren't getting told what we're supposed to think. It's a conversation. And that's how you relate. That's what it's about. It's not, Phil and I talk about this because we don't always know who's going to, you read about a guest on paper and you think, no, I'm being very open here. And you think, this is going to be great. This is going to be good. And they come on and it's like, wow, this wasn't what I was expecting, because you're hectoring me, or you're lecturing Phil and I, or you're lecturing the listeners, and there's only one view and it's your view. Well, that's not life. There's loads of views. Some of them are right, some of them are rubbish, but there's still loads of views. He was.
Oh, what? Now, okay, you're going to love this. Tim MacArthur, by the way, our next guest, is poised as a spring. He's looking very, very stylish in his summer attire as he waits in the digital green room. I'm going to have to ask him if he's okay just to wait just a little bit longer, because on the line now, we have arguably the person with the coolest name who ever gets in touch with us. Yes. Are you ready? It's only Marcella Guglielmucci. Hi, Marcella.
Hello. How are you guys?
Oh, we're all the better for hearing you. Thank you so much for calling us. And why have you called Men's Radio?
Oh, thank you so much. Good afternoon to you both, and good afternoon to everybody. I don't know how I'm going to follow Dexter, I have to say.
We might have to end the show early.
I just wanted to say, Dexter Moscow, love him, used to watch him on QVC, loved his program, so I had to put that in, and it was amazing listening to him for the last hour.
How much of his stuff did you buy?
Sorry, say that again?
How much of his stuff did you buy, Marcel? Have you got a garage?
Too much. Far too much. Far too much. I'm just glad I'm not on Zoom, because you'll be able to see it all behind me.
You're sitting like a warehouse and you're going, bloody Dexter Moscow, look at all this crap I bought.
Actually,
do you know what I mean? I've still got all the fun.
We never thought of asking him. Does he know how responsible he is for how many people's debts? That would be an interesting question to ask.
I tell you what, I was shaking my fist at the screen until I heard him speak, and then I was like, do you know what? I'm totally taking that back.
It really is a lovely chap. Lovely chap. Really,
he is.
really
He's lovely.
Excellent.
So anyway, the reason that I'm here is, Russ, thank you very much for letting me come on here, is to because of Gareth Malone and the Great British Home Chorus. I don't know if some of you may or may not know about that venture that has happened the last 4 months.
No, tell us about.
I'm guessing that Gareth Malone is the choir chap, isn't he? And is he
certainly is.
working on some sort of project where people sing together from home or something like that?
Basically, yes. We're his newest choir, only this time virtual, obviously. It's created for us by him during the early part of lockdown back in March, after hearing the call from Dame Esther Ranson saying we need to rally people together to do something. And he did. When we started, we thought it would just be like, a sing-along of Gareth on YouTube Live. 4 months later, thousands of voices brought together, all of us recording.
I've got it. Yes. Marcella, I've got it. I know what we need to do. Hang on a second. Right. We're going to bring Tim MacArthur in right now. There you go. Hi, very good afternoon to you, Tim.
Good afternoon, boys. How are we?
We're good.
Tim MacArthur is standing by. He's one of our fine members of the team here on Men's Radio. He's joined us on screen, joined us on camera. And you know what I'm thinking? Ooh. What we could give a little rendition now of something. I'm joking. Marcella, carry on.
No, I am not singing.
Oh, I thought he was going to play something then.
Tim can sing.
You're happy for a minute.
Singing, and I don't know if Phil can sing. I have no idea.
Oh no, I wasn't gonna sing. I thought you were gonna say, "Oh, we got a little track that we could play," but that's fine. Being here talking about it is good. we basically recorded from our home, uploading our videos. And we've made, I say we, the royal we, have made a 5-track EP released last Friday, 100% of the profits going to NHS Charities Together.
Bravo.
That's why I'm here.
Well done.
Yes, plug. Please buy the CD.
Hang on, so what's the name of the group? What's the name?
It's the Gareth Malone's Great British Home Chorus.
Great British Home. Okay.
Chorus, yeah.
Okay.
And I was going to give you my best Bob Geldof phrase without the swearing, of course, but I'll spare you of that.
He didn't actually swear to you that. He swore
got a bit of a treat
2 sentences after he asked for the money. I looked it up the other day because I was sure it's one of the great urban myths that he said, "Give me your effing money," and he never said that. He
doesn't. He never did.
He swore afterwards.
Oh! I can hear some. I can hear it. Yes. Wonderful. I hear it. I can't hear you speaking now, though.
No, I'm not
saying anything. That's why.
Did you hear that?
Enjoying the music. It wasn't just you hearing it, Marcella. You're not having a vision. You're not having a vision. It's like Phil was playing the music. We were.
Oh yes.
Love it.
So yes, obviously that was a bit of Duran Duran's Ordinary World. So all the titles kind of resonate with people who have been in lockdown. We've got I'm Still Standing, Somewhere Only We Know, Keen's Somewhere Only We Know, and You Are My Sunshine.
You Are My Sunshine. What a fabulous selection of songs. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go listen to that later on.
Is one of the tracks called I'm Going Round the Bend Because I'm Missing Seeing My Pals and Family? Is that would be one of the tracks?
Yeah.
That well-known hit.
Yes.
Marcella,
yes, that's going to be the B-side. Am I allowed to mention how people can buy it?
Do you know what? Why don't you do that? Because then we're going to have to ask very kindly if we speak to you another time, because Tim MacArthur is waiting very patiently.
And he's got matching headset and matching top. I don't know how he's done that. So Tim. That's so Tim. I'm really impressed.
Right. Go for it. Where do people find this?
Yes. Okay. So please, you can find it at shop.decca.com, or you can also download from iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music.
Marvelous.
So please, it's such a wonderful EP. I know I'm saying that because I'm on it, along with thousands of others, obviously, but I'm on it and I'm so proud of it. And I just want as much money as possible for the NHS. Please do try and buy it if you can.
Well, I'd say that sounds perfectly reasonable thinking to me, Marcella Guglielmucci, who features on Gareth Malone's Great British Home Chorus. Thank you very much indeed for telling us about it. Well, now, oh, goodness me. I mean, we are joined by Men's Radio royalty because...
Very careful with that. I can see that.
One of our own.
Yeah.
Tim MacArthur. Good afternoon, sir.
Hello, boys. How are we?
We're all the better for you joining us.
Absolutely. If you don't know Tim, why not? He's a fantastic actor, great writer, produces. He's just a general all-round nice guy and disgustingly talented. So he gets on my nerves straight away, to be honest, because he's just too talented. It's fact. Sorry.
Bless you.
It's a fact. Now, how are you bearing up in all of this insanity?
Do you know what? I think it's been quite a fascinating period looking back on it now. And I don't know about for you, but when we first went into lockdown, it felt, I think everyone was obviously wanted to be safe. And I think people sort of, overcompensated about maybe keeping in touch with people like house party. There was a real sense of everyone really coming together. And then I think people sort of got into a routine about it. And in a way, it became a little bit, not of normality, but just a sense of, in a strange way, I've actually quite enjoyed it.
Oh, I'm telling you, seriously, the number of people who seems to have enjoyed the recent times is extraordinary.
You enjoyed it, Tim. In what way?
Well, I think in a way, I think it's been great for the environment. Number one, I think that's been a big, and wildlife that I've never seen before in my garden. Do you know what I mean? And birds I've never seen before. And I think, it was such a glorious spring, and just the clear views. I live in Highgate and we can see quite a lot of London, and just the clarity of the air and the views, the furthest I've been able to see for a long time, and just the detail as well in buildings, overlooking London from Waterloo Park onto the city, seeing buildings that I've never really seen before, and just the different colors of them so bright. So I think, one, it's been really good for the environment. And I think, I'm aware as well that some people have obviously really struggled with mental health during lockdown, especially if they've been on their own. And I think, I've had friends who've been on their own, and that's been the great thing about regularly connecting with them and making sure they're okay. And that's, in a way, has also been really interesting. I think it's brought a lot of friendships that were already there. I think it's also strengthened some of those friendships, which has been really interesting.
What is actually interesting, though, is that when you were saying just now about how you find that you've noticed buildings that you're not necessarily noticed before, I know from my experience of lockdown is that I have not noticed. I know this is going to sound so silly, but I don't think I've truly noticed springtime before, because even though spring is one of my favorites, it is my favorite. It's not one of it is my favorite season. I love it. It's a fresh start. It's the time of new life. No, but I need to, I wasn't saying, I'll say what that means, because when I say I've never noticed it before, I don't think I've given it as much time as I gave it this year. In other words, when I was going on the Daily Constitution, or when we were only allowed an hour, remember that? We were only allowed an hour's exit. So I was walking around, that was obviously all through spring, and the area I was walking around in northwest London, I was just noticing every single tree, every single plant, fields. I'd actually spent time to look around, because suddenly the outdoors meant so much more to me, because the rest of the 23 hours it was taken away from me. And that's why I think that you sort of get this newfound appreciation, because suddenly you're not allowed to carry on with life as it was. We wouldn't dream of giving ourselves enough time to actually stop and look at things ordinarily, because we'd be too busy.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing, personally for me as well, one thing that I did do was I didn't drink any alcohol for 126 days. And coming from, a bit of a lush, which I am, and I, working in the entertainment industry and going to openings of envelopes and things like that, there's always a chance to have a drink. And so I just thought, because I'm not going out and I don't have, in a way, that social pressure to do that, I just thought, I'm not going to drink for a while and see what that does. And the other thing is, I've never been a gym bunny, and I've had a exercise bike which has served as a towel rail for the past 12 years of living in this apartment. Has become my.
How many people are going to go around the world going, yeah. It's the most expensive towel rail I've ever bought.
Yeah, and that, I've lost just under 2 stone, which for me has been, amazing. and I would never have the discipline before or necessarily the time to go to the gym or to do anything like that. So for me, that has been, so in a way, I think it has been more about a personal journey and a personal shift and a personal change in a mental attitude that I didn't know I was really capable of.
But you've lost 2 stone. Wow.
Actually, on the subject of avoiding alcohol for over 100 days, in all seriousness, did you find that what did you find the changes in you were for that? Did you notice yourself thinking any, you know how some people say, well, I thought suddenly could think clearly, I felt healthier. Did you notice any of those changes?
I don't think, I mean, I think I slept more, you know. So I mean, I think it was a case of sort of getting up, and I think also doing the exercise, I think, was really good, because I do it first thing on a morning. I mean, I did get a bit OCD on it, and there was days where I was doing 90 minutes a day, which I think, looking back now, is too much. But I think it was really hardcore, which is, you know, I mean, I've never been like that before in my life. You know, when I smell a gym, I'd run away to the other side of the world. So that was really, but also I think just having that routine of getting up and doing an hour every morning, if I did nothing else with the rest of the day, then that was fine, because I felt like I had a purpose, if that made sense. I'd done something positive. So if I did want to sit on the settee and watch dreadful 80s soap operas or science fiction programs, or, you know, new releases on the odd Netflix, then I could do that.
What was your choice? What was your poison?
Which one?
The 80s stuff that you were watching. What was it? What did you binge?
The 80s.
You said you were watching 80s.
Murder, She Wrote. I'm going out on a limb. Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah, Murder, She Wrote. I mean, Saturday afternoon, you just lay on the settee and you just don't get up, and it's just Jessica Fletcher on non-stop, you know. But the thing I really enjoy Murder, She Wrote. And then the one that I don't like is when she pretends to be her Irish cousin. I'm not.
Oh, that's so weird, that one. It's so
really weird.
Ridiculous. How insulting to the viewers. There's one thing, though, that I don't understand about Murder, She Wrote. Wouldn't she save so much time? She's the one who wrote the bloody novel. Why doesn't she just tell the police who killed them?
I know. And the other thing that I think I would worry, if I knew Jessica Fletcher and she said she was coming to see me, I'd leave town.
Yeah. I tell you what. If Miss Marple said, "Oh, I'm just leaving, you know, my little village to come and stay with my nephew," I'm out.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I'm not going there. And if I'm on a train or a plane or anywhere and Hercule Poirot waddles in, I'm out there, because I know you're going to get killed.
And am I the only one who thinks that some of the cheapest property to be found in the UK must be in the county of Midsummer? Just a thought.
It can't be anybody.
Yeah.
Midsummer must be the size.
No, I know.
Midsummer must be the size of a fairly average Tesco. It can't be that much bigger. And there can't be anybody left after, was it 12 seasons or something?
No.
Something like that.
And they almost know each other, because that's what happens. I'm from a small town and everybody knows everybody. You know, so it'd be like, oh, she got bumped off last week. Oh, she's next.
Yeah, I don't like that woman at number 73. She's got shifty eyes. Shifty eyes she's got, that one.
Yeah, phone Jessica Fletcher. Where's she?
What have we started?
It's very impressive that you've lost 2 stone. I'm well gel, because
just under.
Well, don't belittle it. It's still it's terrific. The Persuaders, says Kimmy Thornton. The Persuaders. No, you're talking.
I mean,
Danny Wilde and Brett Sinclair. That was it. Danny Wilde and Brett Sinclair.
I also thought, you know, for health wise, because, you know, at that time, you know, I'm in my 40s now, and, you know, there was a lot of press about, you know, people that were really suffering from coronavirus, obese and overweight, you know, and you know, I am a bit of a fat, hairy bear, so I just wanted to make sure that if I did get it, then I was doing everything in my power to try and help me fight it, if that makes sense as well. So it was a bit of that going on mentally as well, I think.
I think that's right. I think that's what I've tried to do that. And I'm training now. I know you wouldn't think so to look at it, but I'm training twice a week, and haven't lost any weight at all. But it does make a hell of a difference. No two ways about it. The difference it makes is ferocious.
Yeah. I mean, I'm knackered. I'm more knackered.
It's tiring. It's
after I've done it and I sweat.
But do you feel stronger? Do you feel physically stronger, Tim? It's an important point.
Yeah, I probably do in a way, actually. And it's just and it's and I think it's one of those things, because I've never done diets or anything like that. So I think it's been more about a sense of just being aware a little bit of, and still having to have chocolate when I want it, obviously not boxes of it, but, I still sort of do the exercise, and I've not really changed my diet that much. So I think it's probably been the booze and the exercise really, and just being
I've switched to
disciplined with it. I did an outing on you guys.
I can't do without booze. I'll be honest with you. I really can't. There comes to a point in the day I thought, I just want to drink. I'll have the one. That's it. I will have just the one. I try not to have too much wine at home because. So I just switched to vodka and have vodka and ice, and that's kind of it. Kimmy Thornton says, here we go. I'm having an see what you've started now, Tim MacArthur. I'm having an alcohol-free August. God, you're going to be grumpy, Kimmy. The amount of calories in wine is crazy. That is absolutely true, isn't it?
Yeah. I used to drink a lot of Pinot Grigio.
Nice.
And then actually 2 years ago when I was discovered Skinny Bitches, which apparently is the term for vodka sodas.
Oh.
So for a while I was all about the Skinny Bitch. And now I've slipped back onto the old rosé for the summer.
Sure.
I did fall off the wagon on Tuesday night. I went out, I had a meeting, and then the four of us went out for dinner because, Rishi was like, eat out and help out, whatever it's called. So we went to a rest. What's it called?
Eat out to help out.
Eat out to help out. What did I call it?
We should stress
it. Eat out, you silly bitch. I think that's what
that was it. Although skinny, not silly. Although we should stress though that it doesn't include alcohol.
No, it doesn't.
So
I know we spent more on the alcohol than the pizza.
Quite right.
Dylan Kerr, what do you think about this, Tim? I think post 30, if you drink, you're going to be overweight. Wow.
Don't tell me that.
That's a depressing point. I mean, Phil's just turned 34. No longer the child. He's almost grown up now. All right. What about your 80s thing, Tim, while we've got you, because you are Mr. All Things to do with acting. I used to love Quincy's over-the-top meltdown about how much he cares. A couple of people, Quincy.
The thing that I did rewatch during lockdown, which I was so pleased about, was, I don't know if you remember it, boys, there was a series called V, and it was about aliens, lizards, and the mouses.
Because you don't know. And this woman, she's quite attractive. You think, all right. And then there's a scene. She picks up a mouse. It's a bit odd. What's she looking at the mouse for?
Yeah.
A mouth changes.
Yeah.
I can remember it like it was yesterday. My God.
And that has been great because I literally that brought so many memories back of my childhood and that sort of.
What, you used to eat mice as well?
Yeah,
I did. Yeah, all the time.
Dislocate his jaw. And
I can. And actually, if you peel my skin, I'm actually green underneath, Phil Dave. Actually, I am.
Well, David Icke was obviously right.
That's the truth. You see, the problem is, Tim, when people look at me, they do go green underneath. I can't explain it. No.
This is good. Dylan Kerr said, I just beat you to it. V inspired David Icke. I think you're absolutely right. I think he saw it far too young.
Yeah, but it was such a great series. The whole series, but then what they did spoil it. They're then 24-part series, which I'm up to episode 6, and really, it's not very good. The acting is quite dreadful, and the plots are just not very good.
Talking of acting, obviously, you're.
What's that? What is acting?
That is the point I'm going to.
Rumor has it you're a thespian.
Well, not anymore.
Steady, that's been hot talk. Tim? You're right in the heart of the business. What the hell is going to happen here? How do you see this panning out?
I think realistically, being honest about it and sort of not really wanting to mentally accept it, but having to just be totally accepting of it, is I really don't think we will get back into our theatres until at least spring 2021, if I'm honest about it. And it's breaking my heart every day. And, and when it all started, I mean, I totally understand that health is, and this is, it's a horrible disease, and too many people have sadly passed away from it that didn't need to pass away from it really. But I think that we will not, nothing's going to happen until there is a vaccine, or there's herd immunity, sadly. And I really never thought I'd ever say that, but I just can't see how, and during lockdown, it was just soul destroying to just watch my work just disappear in front of my eyes. And even now, I do Panto every year at Hastings for Kudos, which is one of the biggest Panto producing companies. And they released a statement on Monday saying that because they still didn't have the clarity from the government, which they asked them for, they were now liaising with individual theatres across the country to work out whether it's feasible or not to do their Pantos. And I think Birmingham announced that they are not doing theirs, and that's a biggie. So I think for me at Hastings, I don't think it's going to happen, and that's terrifying.
Let me ask you this, Tim, because somebody came up with an idea yesterday, which I was reading about, that in the olden days, Panto would be at Easter. So if we follow your logic, which I don't disagree with, by the way, I think that's the earliest. So let's say spring 2021. Please God, we're all still here. If we've got that, it wouldn't be unfeasible to think that you could do the Panto. It just doesn't have to be at Christmas. You could do it at Easter, because I think the kids would love it.
I mean, I remember at the start of my career in the 90s, there was 2 years running.
The 90s were a long way away. Yesterday for me.
That we did do that. I remember doing 2 Easter Pantos, which was surreal, but I remember us doing them because it was Panto and it was popular with the kids, and they did sell out. So I think, there's a strong possibility, but I think, the other thing I think though, and I hope that there will be a need and a want from people who love any form of live entertainment to get back once we're allowed to get back. I'm hoping that people will sort of trust it, but then the other thing that also you have to be realistic about, it's not just audience safety, it's your cast and crew safety, because if one person comes down with any symptoms or test positive for COVID-19, then that whole production has to close. So if I was a producer, realistically, am I going to invest my money into doing something where there's a strong possibility that I would have to close the show for 2 weeks,
and also you won't be covered by insurance.
You won't be covered by insurance.
This is. I know it's sounds like we're getting into a bit of a detail if you're not in theatre and stuff, but just think about this from somebody like Tim's point of view, or a producer's point of view, is that you would take out normally insurance to cover you for everything, and the insurance company said, well, we're not going to cover you for COVID-19, and that's a very wide umbrella under which to shelter. So as Tim says, if you've got a major production, I mean, Birmingham's let's just say they did Birmingham, which is a 3,000 seater, I believe. It's huge. A huge cast, orchestra, extras, dancers, everything like that, and all the backstage stuff. So somebody gets it, they got to cancel the whole thing. All your money's gone. That's it. You're not going to get a penny back in insurance. It's a huge risk. Huge.
Yeah, it's a huge risk, and so that is, but then there are other venues I know that I've been speaking to that are planning on doing things as soon as the government allows indoor performances to happen, but they won't do as many people in the space, if that makes sense. So they'll only play to a third of what they normally would do during the season, and in a smaller venue, and those venues are open and they're all being safe. So it's I really sort of and I think also mentally that has been the greatest challenge for me personally, and a lot of my mates, is just that we, as the rest of the world starts to sort of slowly reopen and gets back to a little bit of sense of normality, we are the last profession really that can do what we do, and other things. I've not really done anything with my life professionally. I've not, I worked in a bar once and I got sacked. I was a bit like a cross between Barbara Windsor and Martine McCutcheon. And then I remember selling,
go and say, get out of my pub.
Yeah, get out of my pub, boys. Massage pillows and selfridges.
Moment or something.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah,
I remember years ago working in the body shop and going in a little bit hungover, and then all those little tiny bath beads.
Those things stink.
Some woman bought about 60 of them, and then as she handed them to me in this bag or her hands, she dropped them all, and they all bounced all over the floor, and I just stood behind the till and started crying. And the manageress came up to me and said, I think you should go home, Tim. I went, yes, so do I. I never went back for 3 weeks.
Now, speaking of go home, it's absolutely not that we want to get rid of you. You know,
Can I just ask him a quick question?
Can I make a suggestion? Tim, you've spoken about so much television. Why don't you stick around? We're about to welcome into the digital studio the amazing Chantel Rickards, who knows all things telly. Why not? Let's just do it. Let's just let's be reckless for one of the hottest. Why not? Indeed.
This is just water, by the way, boys. It's not vodka.
Yeah, right. It's absolutely not. It's not Grey Goose. No way is it Grey Goose.
Digital studio. She makes the way from the digital green room. Oh, it's only Chantel Rickards. Chantel, a very good afternoon.
Hello. Hi. How is everybody?
Chantel.
Hi.
We are all
still in Wales.
Thank you.
I'm still in Wales. I've got another day of my summer holiday in Wales before I come back to London tomorrow night. The heat. I hear there's a heat wave in London.
It's not just a heat wave. We're having a tropical heat wave. Yes, how's it going in Wales? Is it lovely?
Friday, I will be missing the Friday show because I'm off to Wales. So there you go.
Oh,
have you warned everybody?
Yes.
Now, Chantel, thank you so much for joining us. But I posted that I was very, very cross with you.
I know. I saw.
Very cross with you because Tim, you won't know that Chantel.
Before you get on to this, Russ, aren't we forgetting something?
Stand by, Tim. You're involved in this now.
Brace yourself.
So ready? Here we go.
It's time for this. Oh, yes, it's
Professional. We're just so professional.
Yes, we really are. To be fair, they can't see us dancing on radio, so it's okay.
So they just think we've gone mad. Right now, Chantel Rickards. Tim, let me introduce. Was the former CEO of BAFTA in Los Angeles. Is produced more of the top hit shows than you could shake a stick at, and is my favorite landlady in Los Angeles as well. Don't tell Shirley Green. I'll never hear the end of it. Anywho, so every week, very kindly, Chantel comes on at 1:30 and talks about TV shows and stuff that she's seen that we might enjoy. Last week, she mentions a show I'd never heard of called Goliath. So I made a little mental note. I thought, well, Chantel knows her onions. I'm going to give it a look. That was it. I was done. I did not get out the chair. It just was incredible. Incredible. Just amazing. Thank you. Well, I'm saying thank you. I lost hours of my life. My heart rate was going through the roof, but it was fantastic. Thank you so much.
It's a really good series. Wow. And I saw your post on Facebook, and I think a lot of your other listeners and viewers, some had seen it already, but I think the general opinion was that it's a cracking series and really worth watching. So for those that didn't hear the recommendation last week, the recommendation is still there to go and find Goliath on Amazon, featuring Billy Bob Thornton.
Do you know what I loved about it? And Tim, you will get this because you write as well, is that even the most minor character, say in the law firm, even the most minor character was so utterly three-dimensional that you thought that they'd taken so much care in the creation of it, because it could have been so easy just to sort of cipher somebody in, and you thought you really knew how each person was going to jump.
It's really worth watching. The stories are great.
The clicker. Oh, Chantel, I was cursing you. I was getting so irate. There's a character, and you don't know what it is for a couple of seasons and a couple of shows, and for some reason he uses this clicker instead of bothering to answer. He's so bonkers and arrogant and horrible. Uses a clicker, just clicks, makes a noise like a little metal clicker.
Yeah. Is it one of those things you used to train a dog with or something?
Yes, exactly the same.
That would drive me crackers.
It's pretty,
horrible.
Do you know what? I have to tell you that I one of my recommendations this week, if I may, is that this is going to shock you, because ordinarily anyone who listens/watches this section will know that I am a little bit obsessed with Netflix. But shock horror, I have finally discovered the wonders of Apple TV.
Oh.
Indeed.
I know. Now, I know, Chantal, that you were recommending the morning show that's on Apple TV.
I did recommend the morning show, which has been very, very highly reviewed, highly regarded by everybody who's seen it.
But you are going to have to forgive me because I'm afraid I don't remember what I did yesterday, never mind the last few weeks. So if you've already mentioned this series, please forgive me. It's not that I don't listen.
Okay.
It's just that I don't listen. And I have stumbled across a series called Defending Jacob.
No, that's new to me.
Excellent. Now, Defending Jacob is, I've only actually seen one program of it, but I'm already hooked, and I'm absolutely must make the time to watch the rest of the season. But Defending Jacob is about a young family who's based somewhere in America. I can't quite remember where. Jacob is the son of this young couple. He's early teens, I think. And it's about the slightly typical trials and tribulations you'd expect him to go through in high school. He is rocked, as by most of his classmates are, at the death of one of his classmates. Now, it's not completely known how the classmate died. That's the mystery. Who killed them, who done it, that kind of thing. But the finger of suspicion is pointed to Jacob, hence Defending Jacob.
Okay.
And what I suspect we're going to see is how it unfolds and really unravels into chaos for the family, because you see in a real dramatic way, you know, when they show a little clip of the end or near the end right at the beginning to tease you like this is where it's headed, they do that in this. So you see a really broken man in the form of Jacob's father in the dock defending his son, or talking about what his son has potentially been implanted or suggested that he's committed. And then you go right back to the beginning of how it all started. And my goodness me, it's good. It's so good. Defending Jacob. Now this stars.
All right, well, we'll pick that up. Yeah.
Oh, no, so I was just going to say this stars. It's the chap who plays Jacob was in the film It, the remake of It, the first one, and I think his name Jaden Martell, I think his name is, and he played one of the lead characters in It, the remake. But it also stars Michelle Dockery, who was in Downton Abbey.
Yay!
Oh yes,
she was Lady Mary in Downton Abbey, and I have to tell you, I think her American accent is better than her received pronunciation accent. So I'm quite impressed by that. And there's also a chap called Chris Evans, it's not Chris Evans who we have over here on Virgin Radio.
America. You mean Captain America?
The other Chris Evans.
Captain America, Knives Out, etc.
He's a big deal, Chris.
Fantastic Four, and yes, not another teen movie, Opposite Sex, or it's him.
Okay.
Very, very good cast.
Okay.
Very good.
Chantal?
Right.
Tucked away north.
We'll reconvene on that one next Friday.
Excellent.
So I was going to tell you, because people like Goliath last week, I mean, I've got some British stuff, and then a series that's shot in Australia. But I was going to tell people about a series. It's coming up to the 4th series, which is going to be its last. It won a lot of awards, and deservedly so. It's directed and executive produced by Jason Bateman, who also stars in it. And it's a sort of crime thriller, drug cartel, murder, suspicion, mayhem called Ozark. It's on Netflix, and it's really, really worth watching. It's very different. Laura Linney and Bateman are husband and wife. He gets involved in he's a finance guy, and then he gets involved in some ludicrous sort of money laundering scheme, and then gets involved in the drug cartels. It's dark, so I've got a feeling, Russ, you're going to like it.
I've seen
because you see Bateman. This is going to be really good fun.
Yeah.
But it gets dark quite quickly.
I would say one thing to you, Chantal.
So it's really worth watching. It's all filmed in the Ozarks in Missouri.
Oil drums.
Sorry, Russ.
If I say to you,
oil drums.
Tim, do you know what either of them are talking about right now?
I watched one episode. There's a scene with oil drums, and when Chantal Rickard says dark, she ain't kidding. Oh. Didn't see
very
that.
good, but actually, rather like Goliath, the secondary characters are incredibly good. And one of the young female leads in it had become an absolute breakout star because of this show in the last 3 years. But give it a try. If you like good drama and suspense and a really good rattling thriller, then it's something worth watching. And I can't wait for the fourth and final series. But Jason Bateman is, I think, a very good actor. He's got a big range, but he's directed and executive produced this. So, he's obviously a much more rounded person, career than one had possibly imagined before. But it's definitely worth watching. So that is Netflix, and it's for the list before we all have to break out of lockdown. And then I think
Jason Bateman. Sorry, Chantal. May I also suggest that Jason Bateman looks sickeningly well and good for, I think he's about early 50s, 51, 52.
Yeah. He's very easy on the eye. I'm not sure if people are allowed to say things like that any longer, but I've said it. So
I think you can.
To us. Paying him a compliment. Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so bringing us bang up to date, the thing that is being pushed very heavily by the BBC at the moment is A Suitable Boy, which was a novel that everybody seemed to be reading about 20 years ago, even though it was actually written in the 1930s. And it's a massive, it's a sort of doorstop of a book of 1,300 pages. About an Indian post-partition story about a family trying to find a suitable boy for their 19-year-old daughter to marry. We're up to episode 2. It's BBC One. It looks incredibly beautiful. I mean, the colours are wonderful. It was all filmed in northern India. It's a completely Indian cast. It's done by Andrew Davis, who is the person most known for his massive television adaptations of great books like Pride and Prejudice and War and Peace. So it's a great, big, chunky piece of BBC drama that I think everybody should watch, besides the fact that the social history is really interesting. And a lot of new actors that we don't know, because a lot of them come from the Bollywood community, not indeed the British acting community. So it's a good watch. I think it's sort of, water cooler telly at the moment. There's a lot to cram in because it's an incredibly long story, but it's definitely worth watching. And for those that are even sort of interested in the whole arranged marriages thing, there's a very weird series, which I think is on Netflix at the moment, about Indian arranged marriages, which is a reality show. You can't quite believe there's a reality show about Indian estranged marriages, but it's rather sort of, it drags you in. Anyway, so, but that's a bit of an aside.
Tim should host that. That would be good.
Yeah. And then something completely different. And I don't, I look at the web all the time and I see what comes up on my feed. But an American comedian I had never heard of, keeps popping to the top of my feed at the moment, who's called Sarah Cooper. And these are only little bite-sized chunks that you will find on YouTube or Facebook. Anyway, Sarah Cooper is a Jamaican woman who lip syncs to Donald Trump's words.
Oh, yes. I didn't know her name. Yes. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, it's incredibly funny. And actually, maybe one shouldn't be laughing at Donald Trump, but she absolutely makes it easy to laugh at Donald Trump. Because when you hear his words spoken by somebody else, you realize how utterly nonsensical most of it is. And they're only 1 minute or 2 minutes at most, but if you want a little pick-me-up, something that's very, very funny, look for Sarah Cooper.
It's the weirdest thing, isn't it? Because I didn't know what it was, but she lip syncs, so you hear Trump's voice and Sarah Cooper will be sitting there or doing some minor activity and emoting what he's saying in absolutely perfect. I mean, it's a real skill. It's something I can do. And as Chantal says, you think, this is complete and this is nonsense. What the hell does that mean? It means nothing. But when the president of America does it, you think, well, it must mean something. And when you see somebody else doing it, you think, this is absolute rubbish. Very, very clever.
No, it's very clever because it's
not such a hot idea.
Such an easy idea, but she's done it really well.
So that again, Phil. Sorry, couldn't hear you.
The only reason I might suggest it's not the best thing to laugh at President Trump is because you never know, you might be on his hit list. Who knows?
Well,
indeed.
She's done a very. Tim, what have you? Oh, my voice has gone. Tim, what have you been watching? Anything that's caught your eye apart from Murder, She Wrote?
Yeah, so I really have got into, it's on Netflix, and it's a new series called Cursed, and it's basically, it turns out it's the early days of King Arthur, Lady in the Lake, Lancelot. It's really interesting. It took me a couple of episodes to get into it, and then once I was in, it was fine. And Merlin's in it, and it's a nice. I think it starts at the beginning of all their journeys, so it's really interesting. I watched that, and then also a series that I really loved on Netflix just at the start of lockdown is Dead to Me, which is Christina Applegate. I don't know if you watched it, Chantal. It's I
haven't watched a lot of it, but I know the series. Yeah,
it's really, I find it quite modern, and it's mother relationship, and there's quite a lot of twists in it, and that's probably one of the highlights that I watched. I watched something really dreadful, which I just couldn't believe they did a movie of it, and it was Zombie Beaver, because I'm a bit fascinated with zombies, and it was like this really dreadful, absolutely appalling an hour and 20 minutes of my life I won't get back. But if you want something that you just sit and want a good laugh at, it's typical, like horny bunch of teenagers in the wood, and then the beavers turn everybody into zombies, and it's just like ridiculous. But good fun.
I think I've just joined a parallel universe, but I'm not quite sure I'm going to find time for a zombie beaver sort of movie fest. You never know. You
never know. Well, if you find that you're absolutely staring at the walls and don't know what to do, then and you've got nothing else to do.
And can I just say, Chantal, you haven't lived.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you, Chantal. Serious, and then I'm going to throw the same thing to Tim. Is that sometimes when I just haven't got the energy to get into like Goliath or something like that, because I know I'm going to be totally involved, and I'm just that tired, and I just want to, as Tim said with his silly film, and I go on to say Amazon, and it's like included with Amazon. So you think, all right, the premise doesn't look bad, and you start to watch it, and exactly as Tim has just pointed out, you sit there going, this is not just rubbish. The acting is terrible. The script must have taken all of 20 minutes to write on the back of an envelope. In all seriousness, every film costs millions, right? They're so bad. I mean, they're just they're not so bad, they're funny. They're just that bad. How does all that stuff get made? Where does it actually go, and how would they recoup their money?
Well, it's an interesting question. I mean, the Amazon business model is probably not something I'm so up to speed on that I could really talk about it with any proper knowledge. But clearly they're making a lot of money. I mean, I think the figures in the UK that came out this week were that during lockdown, 12 million people took up a new subscription service, whether that was Sky or Apple Plus or Amazon. And that's 12 million people taking up a new service. So there are a lot of people out there with money to spend. And clearly, mainly the Amazon model is that you pay for what you get. And I can't remember what it is. It's $7.99 a month or $6.99 a month, something like that.
It's great. I'll be honest with you. It's great.
Yeah.
The point was, it's not like, I'm not talking about when it says an Amazon original, because those are pretty damn good. I got to be honest. It's like Netflix. Those are really good. It's when they show through their platform these films which are just incompetent, every aspect. I mean, you're both our guests, both of you are in the industry on different sides of it, of course, but you understand professionalism, and you both understand the competence of writing or directing or acting, and these things are just, it's like they're made by an idiot, and that fascinates me, how someone's raised the money with a storyline which is ludicrous, acting which is terrible, there's no special effects, must have cost tuppence, they got a bog off with it, buy one get one free. I just don't understand how they recoup them. They can't all be tax dodges, surely they can't be.
No, they won't all be tax dodges, and a lot of it will be stuff that goes straight to streaming services or straight to video, as they used to say. So it wouldn't have gone via a television broadcaster, but it'll wash its face. And to be honest, they won't have spent that much money on it because it'll be actors who are not very well known. They'll all be on buyouts, which means they'll just be paid for the work that they do. So, yes, you're right. There's some ropey stuff out there. And I think if there's anything that's wrong about Netflix and Amazon is that there's probably too much stuff. It's not very well curated, because actually what you want are really good things to watch, as opposed to having to go through the dustbin all the time and pull out the perfect pieces.
But you see, Tim, I fall into your trap because I know it's terrible within about 4 minutes. And yet an hour and a half later, I'm still sitting there just like you. Thinking,
well, it's not that bad then.
It's got to get better. Well, no, I'm too tired. I'm just like, by that point, I'm just like.
Then I just say touche.
Yeah, but then I think there's a part of it that becomes a bit more addictive about it when you just, because I know I'll sit and watch something and I'll be like, this is dreadful, but then I'm like, will it get better or won't it? And then sometimes you watch things and you go, oh, then now they have clearly run out of money at this point.
But you do know, it's a very fine balancing act, because there are some series that start off really dodgy or really slow, and you never know what the right amount of time to give them is before you really recognize what a great series. And I got to be honest, I found that with Downton Abbey. I mentioned it earlier on. We were talking about Michelle Dockery in the Defending Jacob series that's on Apple TV at the moment. But when Downton Abbey first started, I think it took about 2 or 3 episodes before I really thought, okay, this is a good program. First 2 or 3, I really thought, I don't know how much more I can give this. It's because it's in such a hype around it. Of course, now, brilliant series, and I wish they'd make more of it. But there is a bit of a balancing act, isn't there, in terms of how long do you give something?
Yeah. Yes, I think you're absolutely right about that. I mean, I wouldn't give things too much time, to be honest. I think really, if you don't like something after the first episode, move on, because actually there's so much good stuff out there.
I'm with you, because there is a lot of excellent stuff out there. And really, although Tim and I can kind of just veg out on some piece of nonsense occasionally, if I'm not invested in the film within 10 minutes, I'm gone.
But I found that a little bit with The Luminaries on BBC One. I don't know if you watched that recently. It started off good, and then I just got lost in it. And I don't know whether because it was too much of flashbacks or then coming forwards. And I kept saying, I mean, I would say I'm normally quite intelligent at following something, but I just was like, I have no idea what's happening now. And then the last episode, I sort of sat there and I thought, am I really going to watch this last episode? And then there was a part of me that went, you've just spent 8 weeks watching this. So I suggest you do watch it, because then you'll kick yourself if you then don't know what happened in the end. But that's my OCD kicking in.
Was it worth it?
Was it worth it?
No, absolutely not.
No, to kick
it was shot too
dark. Which is exactly why I haven't included it in my roundup, because actually I wasn't convinced that it was a great series. It's an interesting series, but it's not something I had on my list of things to recommend. So, but there's one thing that did catch my eye from the same part of the world.
I wouldn't recommend Relative.
Yeah. No, I was going to mention, and this is very Marmite. So if you like Miriam Margolyes, then this is this is the series for you. And there are people who really like Miriam Margolyes.
Do you not like her? I love her.
Miriam Margolyes. Don't watch this series.
Well, can I suggest, I like Miriam Margolyes as an actress. I think she's a very good actress, but my goodness me, I do not like her as a person. But anyway, keep going.
Well, so fun enough, I was discussing it here this morning with my house guests, and 2 of them said, oh, I really like Miriam Margolyes. You know, I just love her acerbic wit. And that's great. And she is very spiky. But if you don't like her spikiness, then clearly don't watch the program that is currently on BBC One, which is Miriam Margolyes Almost Australian. Because in fact, she now lives in Australia, which I hadn't realized. And she has Australian, she is now an Australian. So that was sort of interesting that this is her at 78 driving around in a camper van, trying to find out what being Australian actually means. So this is for the Miriam Margolyes fans. Russ Kane is not one of those people.
Clearly we have got one.
Not a Miriam Margolyes.
I'll be watching that. I'm defending her camp, everybody.
Okay.
There's a voiceover.
Camp she can be. I mean, she just
absolutely
drives herself as, you know, a 78-year-old Jewish lesbian. And, you know, good on her, frankly, for wearing who she is on her sleeve. That is who she is. And she's always got something to say. She's clearly highly bright. But you have to go with the spikiness because, you know, there's just a little bit of edge all the time in what she says.
I'm afraid that the main reason I don't like is because she actually has quite a dare I suggest, a woke way about her, in the sense that no one else could possibly be right other than to think the way she does. And that's what I have a problem with. But never mind.
Yeah.
At least she speaks beautifully. So that's something.
She's as a voiceover. I mean, I listen to so many audiobooks, and as a voiceover of the characters, she's tip top. You know, I won't take that away. Absolutely tip top. I can't bear
Credit
it.
where it's due. And
As an artist and as a talent, she's excellent. Totally so.
She is.
When you're watching, I was going to ask you as we rock up to the top, but Tim, for example, and then Chantal, come to you, is when you're watching something, are you able to divorce yourself from being a writer and actor? Do you sit there dissecting the scenes, or are you able to just be Tim McArthur? I'm just a punter now, wearing my punter's hat. I'm just going to enjoy it.
I think if it's something that I really want to watch, then I'll just enjoy it. And, you know, I find that I will watch something to just escape, which is why I think we all watch stuff, is for escapism, really, and just take ourselves out of where we are. I think if it's something really bad, then maybe that side will kick in, but I would say very, very rarely, really. I think I'm probably more critical if I go to the theatre, which is probably, you know, more of our area, really, Russ, which is compared to, like, Chantal is more movie TV based, where I think TV for me, you know, I'm happy to just sit and absorb it and let it, you know, I mean, I don't watch soap operas anymore because everyone gets killed in a soap opera now, which is when soap operas began. That wasn't the case. You know, oh, another murder on the streets. Oh, another murder in the square. Dull. How many people have been killed in my street in the past 12 years?
Well, hopefully not many, but you haven't been to the laundrette recently, let's be honest.
No, that's true.
Chantal, can you remove your professional hat when you go and see a film, or do you see all the...
Rarely. I mean, when I first trained as a television director, I was trained by ITV as what they call a single camera director. So in studio, you're trained as a multi-camera director, and that sounds pretty obvious, and it is. But I was trained as a single camera director. But the minute that I actually understood the architecture of creating pictures, I would then watch a drama on television and I would immediately go, I know why they've taken a cutaway of the candlestick or the dagger or the rope. You sort of, you can just see how you are being led by a rope down a particular line to get to a particular place. So it did initially really irritate me because I was deconstructing programs all the time, just because that was the way I was thinking. I don't do it very much anymore, actually. But if things are badly directed or badly edited or continuity is bad, it still really jars with me, and I find that incredibly frustrating, particularly continuity. I mean, there aren't, other than in film, in television now, you don't really get continuity people who make sure that, you know, you walk through the door with your right foot first, and then you don't get the next shot where your left foot comes first. So there aren't those craftspeople any longer on teams who are checking that sort of thing. But when I see it done badly, I just think it's lazy, and it's a pity because it jars with me.
Have I got time? Just quickly. What's the matter, Phil?
I was going to say, do you know what? I've just looked it up. Do you know how many people have died in Coronation Street over the last 65 years? That is a dangerous place to live. Seriously. 195 people have died in Coronation Street.
Wow. And they've all been killed by a hairdryer. That's the interesting one.
I mean, I'm sorry, but for such a small street in Manchester, that's quite lethal. I don't think I'd move there.
No.
Wow.
Riley. Sorry, Tim, you about to say?
One thing, Chantal, that I've normally written for theatre, but during lockdown, I had an idea when I was in Spain about doing a horror movie. So I've actually written my first horror movie, which has been a really interesting, having not written for, you know, movie or a genre that I really know, but it's sort of going back to my youth with, you know, Salem's Lot. And I have an obsession with nuns as well, so I put the two together. Vampires and nuns.
Vampires and nuns. Well, yes, I was educated by Catholic nuns in a boarding school, but I'm very happy to have left that behind me.
Yeah.
Unbelievably, everybody, that's it for today. Can I just say thank you very much to everyone who's taken part in this episode of Loose Men. Sorry, I beg your pardon, of on Men's Radio Station. But thank you very much to all guests. Chantal, thank you very much indeed to you. Tim MacArthur, thank you to you. Dexter Moscow, flipping fantastic as well. Thank you very much. Also, we must say thank you to Paul and to Sen, who joined us way at the start of today's show.
Gucci Mucci as well.
Oh my goodness me! How on earth could I forget? I'm so sorry, Marcella Guglielmucci as well, who absolutely was superb.
And thank you, Chantal. Thank you, Tim, for finding time to share your thoughts with us. Much appreciated.
No,
Enjoy your last day in Wales.
Oh yes,
Indeed.
Enjoy.
Fun.
We look forward.
Happy weekend. Happy watching.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Any odd way. What can I say? Russ and I will be back on Monday with a little bit of blooming luck. We'll see you then midday right here on Men's Radio Station, broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Whatever you're doing, have a marvelous weekend. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.